Welcome back to episode 168 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Troy. What's happening, Troy? This is the Gong Show.
Complete and utter Gong Show has occurred. We apologize if there's any audio errors, any mishaps, or anything. It is a mess right now, but we will get to that in a sec.
Yeah, we've spent the last day in crisis mode because, why don't you explain your trip, and then I think, then cover how we got to this point.
Sure. So basically, every year, my son and I try to go to spring training down in Fort Myers, Florida for the Minnesota Twins, and finally was done with hockey and everything. And I'm like, hey, we should go this weekend. So away we go. And obviously the flight back, because I can fly standby, I was watching them, and all of a sudden they're filling up, and now they're almost all booked. So I'm panicked. Text Josh. I'm like, we have to record the show. We have to do it in the morning because I don't know if I'll be able to get back in time. I could do it from the hotel at least. I don't want to have to try to do it from the airport. So that's where we're at. Fun trip so far. However, this part is very stressful, and we're going to try to make it work. Apologize if there's any audio, video quality issues. You can probably see I'm in a hotel room. If you're watching on video, it looks weird. There was a lamp in the background that was making my background look like the sun, and I tried to get that fixed, and my poor son is behind me sleeping, so we'll see how this goes.
Life of a podcaster, right?
Yeah.
And it's not even what do you call this? Is it the morning? The other kind of thing about today is like we've done Gong Show at night. Like,
yeah,
I feel like starting recording at midnight for us kind of isn't even a thing anymore. It just has happened so often.
Yeah.
But not only did we have to do really early in the morning, we got hit with the double whammy of daylight savings.
Yeah, that stunk too. The came quick this morning, I'll tell you
that. Well, it'll be fun, and we'll get through it. Like I said, we called this podcast Hockey Cards Gong Show for a very specific reason that if you've listened to us for any amount of time, I think you know by now. But so like you said, you're having a good trip, having a lot of fun out at the ballpark.
Good trip. The weather's been fantastic. We'll see. It's supposed to rain this morning, but then it's supposed to clear up. Our flight leaves at night. We do have tickets to the Twins game today, so we'll try to hit that. And then I think besides that, it's been really well. We went to a game in Bradenton, Florida, when they played the Pirates, so that was fun. And then Yankees were yesterday. That was crazy. The place was packed. Twins won. Buxton went absolutely insane. He was 3 for 3 before they pulled him, a home run and 2 triples. So it was pretty. He was having a good day.
He didn't like trip out of the dugout and he's on the IR for half the season yet, or no?
I'm just waiting for it. That's usually what happens. He gets injured, and all of a sudden, he's the best player in baseball, and he's not injured, but he's always injured. So it is what it is. Okay, Josh, I'm going to do this right now. I have to give an update. I forgot the last, a week and a half. People have been asking Minnetonka High School hockey tournament update, and I keep forgetting. I put it in comments. Here's the deal. We got third place. We won third place, I'll say. It was disappointing. We wanted to win the championship. It stunk. But at least we went out winning the last game. But would have liked to get the championship. So there's the update. I apologize, I forgot. A lot of people were asking. That's what we got.
Well, it's always next year. So in the state of Minnesota, third place is nothing to sneeze at in the state high school hockey tournament. And kind of speaking of that too, the boys hockey tournament just concluded here last night. If you're a real like kind of hockey diehard or a hockey fan and you ever have the opportunity, I would definitely recommend checking out the boys high school hockey, well, girls too, but the boys state high school hockey tournament here in Minnesota. It is an event. It's probably one of the, it's hard to even put into context because there's nothing else like it in youth amateur sports. You can't even call college really amateur sports at this point. So probably high school is the last thing that we have left. Over 100,000 people packed the Xcel Energy Center. They kicked the Wild out for 2 weeks at a time, I guess, for 1 week for the girls, 1 week for the boys. The hair is already ridiculous. There is like an ESPN Instagram post that's been floating around where these kids just get insane. They bleach their hair
Yeah.
to the point where it'll probably never be healthy again,
Yep.
and craziest cuts. And now they totally ham it up, right? So now it's really become a contest. It's like you want to win the state trophy or state championship, of course, and then you also want to have the most ridiculous hockey hair. It feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. People, or the kid that had the cheetah hair was in, or the leopard. I don't know what it was. He had spots, like cheetah spots on his head. That was crazy.
But they're even doing like the Zoolander sort of
Yeah.
like poses and stare downs and all that. It's pretty corny. Great hockey, of course, and it was always kind of a big, exciting sort of time of year here in the state of Minnesota. Last kind of intro thing before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that we got a lot of really good feedback on our live show last
Yep.
Wednesday with Billy Celio. So again, thanks to him for joining us. Really appreciated it. Kind of felt it was an appropriate sort of thing to do to celebrate the much anticipated release of Series 2, and just appreciate everyone's feedback. And when we can find opportunities that make sense, I think I'm definitely game to do more of those. How did you feel, Troy?
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, we were both terrified, I think, at first, but the more it went on, got a little more comfortable, and then the feedback was really good. So that always helps. And I think what we came out with is that we should probably do more live shows. So maybe we'll try to figure that out next.
All right, one last thing. We do have a ton of stuff to get to today. I'm very excited about our show, but just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast, which means we rely on support from listeners like yourself to really help us cover our show expenses, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hockey hobby. You can support us through Patreon. We have an out of 199 support level tier. It costs $5 a month. In addition to supporting the show, you also get exclusive access to the Hockey Cards Gong Show Discord server and chat with everyone there on a daily basis. You can, we do some contests. We're doing a 5K challenge where you can win a box of the cup through Discord this year. That's going to wrap up pretty soon. Uh,
Hmm.
Somebody's going to win an awesome box of hockey cards that's been staring at me here in my office for months now. I haven't opened it. I've had good self restraint there.
Good.
It's very easy to support us. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link at the top of the page. You go to Patreon's website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. In addition to that, you can go to our Instagram, TikTok profiles. There's a link there. And then there's also a link in the show description, whether you're listening to us on Instagram or not, you don't listen on Instagram. You're listening to us on a podcast app or on YouTube. Uh, since our last show, we've had a couple, or I think kind of one sort of change. 86 Collectibles has become a very good friend of us, has signed up for our top tier, the Triple Gold Club. So I want to give a
Oh, nice.
special thanks to him. All right, man, you ready for the game plan?
All right, we begin the show by looking at the almost greatest NHL player to wear number 67. Since we didn't do that last episode, Josh, we had a big live stream, so we didn't do any of the greatest number stuff. Then we will look at the almost greatest player to wear number 68. I will try to do my best and move through those pretty quick. Then it's off to Who's Hot in the Struggle Bus. Next, it's Hobby News, followed by new product releases. Then we take a look at the Bedard secondary market and just what is going on since the release of 23-24 Series 2. It's pretty wild. And then we finish the show with the Gong Show mailbag, which is always huge, and any personal pickups. Okay, Josh. Previously, we looked at the greatest NHL player that wore the number that matched our episode number. We ran through all the numbers, so now we are looking at the almost greatest NHL player to wear each number from the runners up in the Hockey Writers' Greatest NHL Player to Wear Each Number article. We are doing two on this show, as I mentioned. We're going to start with the almost greatest NHL player to wear number 67. So, Josh, here we go. The almost greatest NHL player to wear number 67 for the nominees in the Hockey Writers' Greatest NHL Player to Wear Each Number article, and selected by me, is Michael Frolic, Josh. That's our boy. Here he is. And I'm going to apologize if I'm a little slow on switching images. I'm on a little tiny laptop, but there's a picture of our boy, Michael Frolic. If you're watching on YouTube, number 67, prominent on his jersey. All right, Josh, have you heard of Michael Frolic?
No, I did hear of
Neither have
your
I.
one of your running outs, one of your runners up, Benoit Pouliot though.
Yeah, yeah, you've heard of him. Everyone's heard of him. The other runner-up at number 67, as you said, was Benoit Pouliot. And I thought when I saw the list that he would be the guy to be the almost greatest, but it wasn't. It was Michael Frolic. As a reminder, the greatest to wear number 67 was Max Pacioretty. We all know who he is. All right,
Yep.
Josh. Michael Frolic. Josh, he's a forward from Kladno, Czechoslovakia. We know that city. We should know that city. We've talked about it enough. There's a pretty famous hockey player that's also from Kladno. It's our boy. He's been in the news a lot recently. The celebration in Pittsburgh, the whole retirement of his jersey number, but that's where Jaromir Jagr is also from. Frolic was the 10th overall selection in the 2006 NHL entry draft by the Florida Panthers. Frolic played in 858 regular season NHL games over a 13-season NHL career. Frolic played with a total of 6 NHL teams. Started his career with the Florida Panthers, and then he had stints with Chicago, Winnipeg, Calgary, Buffalo, and Montreal. Now, our boy, Michael Frolic, one-time Stanley Cup winner with Chicago in 2013. For his regular season stats, he's had 159 goals, 225 assists for 384 points. Frolic made the playoffs in 6 of his 13 NHL seasons, compiling 7 goals, 12 assists for 19 points in 47 NHL playoff games played. Okay, Josh, here I go. I'm switching the picture. Can you see it?
Yep.
All
We
right,
got
cool.
it.
I think I got my little system down here. Okay, best season of his NHL career from a point standpoint was his 2008-9 rookie season, where Frolic had 21 goals, 24 assists for 45 points in 79 games played with the Florida Panthers. Frolic was known for his two-way playing ability. He did have some offensive scoring ability, but could never reach the 50-point plateau during his career. Obviously, he's one of those guys that his rookie season was his best season from a point standpoint, and good long career, played for a while, but just never became an offensive juggernaut. All right, Josh, after his NHL career, our boy, Michael Frolic. So his career in the NHL ended after the 2020-21 NHL season. Like a lot of players, COVID kind of
Yeah.
took the steam out of it. Frolic has been playing in the Czech Extraliga. Josh, he's currently playing for, I never can say his name right, Rytiri Kladno, where guess who else plays in this part owner, Jaromir Jagr. So it's full circle. He just comes back to Jaromir Jagr. This should be about him, actually. And for
I
fun,
count
just
13
go ahead.
advertisements. I count 13 advertisements just on the visible part of his of the image here.
Jersey. I love those things. They're just chaos. I hope the NHL never does that. Fun, interesting facts for our boy, Michael Frolic. Nickname Josh, you won't believe this. His nickname is Baby Jagr for his on-ice similarities to Kladno's biggest hockey star. I guess when he was coming out, too, they said he looked like him, he played like Jagr, so they obviously just called him Baby Jagr. He also had the nicknames of Taters and Fro. So Fro makes sense. I don't know why it was called Taters. I couldn't find that one. And then
I don't think
finally,
Baby Jagr is very
no,
apropos.
I don't want to be stuck with Baby Jagr.
No, I do like the nickname Taters though. I think everyone should have a friend named Taters.
That's a good idea. I agree. All right, final fun fact. On May 27, 2013, during the 2013 playoffs, Frolic scored the second playoff penalty shot goal of his career against Jimmy Howard of the Detroit Red Wings. This made Frolic the first player in NHL history to score more than one career penalty shot goal in the playoffs. There you go. More you know on that one. Holy cow. All
So
right,
I got a
Josh,
question about that. Do you wish there were more penalty shots in the NHL? I kind of do. I think it's like incredible. I'm sure as a goalie coach, you're going to have an opinion on this, but just feels incredibly exciting when there's a penalty shot.
Oh, they are. Penalty shots are absolutely like one of the most exciting moments you can have in sports. But also with the whole shootout thing, I don't know if they've lessened how important they are or how I don't know the moment. Like because penalty shots were so rare before shootouts, but now a shootout
Yeah.
is kind of a penalty shot. But yeah, you don't see penalty shots very often. Refs are very trigger shy to call them. And there's all this
Mhm.
different criteria. It's got to be like in the act. I don't know if it's still this, but it used to have to be in the act of shooting and all that stuff. But I mean, or if you get tackled or something. But yeah, I like penalty shots are awesome. All right, Josh. Oh boy. Hold on, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, apologize. Got to zoom in on our card here so you can see them. All right. Michael Frolic, 2008 Upper Deck number 217, Young Guns. If you're watching on screen, there it is. PSA 10 pop of this card, Josh, is 25 with a gem rate of 89%. The last and only sale of this card I could find in the last 10 years was on August 23rd of 2022 via eBay and verified in Terapeak for $29.99 US. So there you go, Josh. That's our little summary on Michael Frolic. Any final thoughts on your boy?
The 2008-9 Young Guns design is pretty wild.
Yeah,
I'm actually not a big fan.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's very busy. At
Hmm.
times, I think it's cool, but other times it's just very distracting. It's like the whole lower third of it's I don't know what you. It always
A lot
reminds
of
you like it's
foil.
designed on an iron gate or something.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
rip.
definitely.
So, all right, that's our boy Michael Frolic. Let's get moving. Number now we got to do the almost greatest NHL player to wear number 68. So, Josh, we're not going to read the preamble. We're just going to say it. The almost greatest player to wear number 68, and selected by me, is this guy, Josh, Mike Hoffman. Again, another guy. I'm pretty sure I've heard of him. He's been in the periphery. He's still, well, I'll get to it. He's still playing,
Yeah.
but just kind of one of those guys. He's like the journeyman, we'll call him. There were no other runners up at number 68. And as a reminder, the greatest to wear number 68 was Jaromir Jagr. I feel like I've mentioned Jagr 50 times already on the show. Pretty crazy. All right, Mike Hoffman. He's a forward from Kitchener, Ontario. Hoffman was the 130th overall selection in the 2009 NHL entry draft by the Ottawa Senators. Hoffman has played in 739 regular season NHL games over a current 13-season NHL career. Hoffman started his career playing 7 years with the Ottawa Senators. He then played 2 seasons with the Florida Panthers. This was followed by stints with St. Louis, Montreal, and his current team, the San Jose Sharks. For his awards and accomplishments, Josh, we have nothing, no cups, no individual awards. However, for his
You've won
career,
nothing.
you've won nothing and you'll like it. For his career, he's actually scored a pretty decent amount of goals. For his career, 228 goals, 258 assists for 486 points. Hoffman has made the playoffs in 4 of his previous 12 NHL seasons, compiling 11 goals, 9 assists for 20 points in 33 NHL playoff games played. Best season of his NHL career from a point standpoint was his 2018-19 season, where Hoffman had 36 goals, 34 assists for 70 points in 82 games played with the Florida Panthers. Now, our boy Hoffman has been a reliable point producer in the NHL. He had 6 straight seasons of 40-plus points. His last 3 seasons in the NHL, he has been right in the middle 30s for points produced. This season, he is on pace for 30 points. As mentioned previously, Josh, Hoffman is still currently playing in the NHL with, I guess we'll call it the dumpster fire that is the San Jose Sharks. On the 23-24 season, Hoffman has 10 goals, 12 assists for 22 points in 60 games played. Okay, Josh, that's our little fun stuff about Mike Hoffman. But you wait till we get to fun facts. There's a story about him that I think I kind of remember, but I totally forgot about. It's not even really about him, but it's nuts. So we'll get to that in just a sec. Oh, I forgot,
Okay,
Josh.
well,
Here
one
you.
one quick thing I just want to
Yeah.
mention because we, in our scramble to to produce our show early, we kind of missed this one in the trade recap we're going to do in a little bit. But yeah, it's like you don't want to say playing on any NHL team isn't good. And listen, our team is not very good here either in Minnesota. But it seems like it'd be pretty rough to be in San Jose right now. Did you see that they traded Hurdle too
Yeah.
away to? And then the other thing that's kind of wild about that is he went to Vegas. It sounds like Stone, of course, Troy, is on IR again. So what does that do? It takes his salary away, right? And so
Oh, we
they've
talk
added
about
all
it. I
the
talk about it. We're
okay,
gonna get a little bit
okay,
into that. Again, it was weird trying to figure this out, but we do talk about that a little bit.
okay,
We'll see if I
okay.
don't know if I go into the whole Stone part of it, but yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
I
I
just
know
found that really
exactly where you're
interesting
going.
last night when I was reading that. So I
Yeah.
wanted to bring it up. Okay, continue.
All right. So our fun, interesting facts for our boy Mike Hoffman. His nickname, Josh, the Hoff. Makes sense, I
Yeah.
guess. All right. During the 2018-19 season of Florida, Hoffman had a 17-game point streak, breaking Pavel Bure's Panthers record of 13 set in 1999-2000. Very interesting. All right, here's where it goes off the rails. This relates to Hoffman, and it kind of gives some background on why he was traded away from Ottawa. So I'm going to let Wikipedia kind of do the talking on this one. So again, remember this is from Wikipedia, but it's nuts. Here we go. On May 4th, 2018, teammate Erik Karlsson's wife, Belinda, filed an order of protection against Hoffman's fiancee, Monica, I'm going to go Carrick. The order came into response of a large number of harassing messages directed toward the Karlssons over an extended period of time, allegedly from Carrick, the fiance. The alleged harassment include utilizing multiple fake social media accounts to direct over 1,000 negative and derogatory comments toward the Karlssons, including comments wishing that someone would injure Erik Karlsson's legs to end his career, and others wishing Karlsson's wife and her then unborn child dead. The Karlsson son was later born stillborn, which did not bode well for this whole situation. During a 2018 court deposition, Carrick burst into tears, and this is where it just gets insane, and threatened to leave the room during questioning. She told the court that she and Melinda Karlsson began as friends and that the Karlssons were never outwardly, I can't say that word, hostile towards her. When asked how the friendship deteriorated, Carrick, again, that's Hoffman's fiance or wife, fiance, I can't remember, stated that she became offended after her Facebook and Instagram posts stopped receiving likes from Melinda Karlsson. And Carrick became more upset when she stopped receiving invitations to team dinners organized for wives and girlfriends of Senators players. The deposition revealed that wives and girlfriends of several players associated with the Senators and other organizations had contacted Carrick privately before the matter had ever gone public, admonishing her for her continued and increasingly hostile threats toward the Karlssons. Although the allegations against Carrick remain unproven in a court of law, Hoffman was swiftly traded from Ottawa once the harassment allegations were made public. Josh, that's craziness. I don't know what to say about it. I read that and I was just shaking my head, and who knows? It's all alleged, never got proven, but Ottawa saw enough of it to move on from Hoffman, so it kind of affected his career. But that's wild.
That's like horror movie level
Yeah,
craziness there.
yeah,
Holy
it's
cow.
insane, just
And
absolutely insane.
because she didn't get enough likes on her Facebook post?
Who knows? I can't even begin to say. Yep,
Wow.
that's a good reason. So we'll just leave that one at that.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Hoffman, his rookie card. We're gonna go with this 2011-12 Panini Titanium number 116, serial numbered out of 68. Which I went with this card because it has the most graded copies at at BGS with 5. At PSA, all his, we'll call them rookie card candidates, they all have 1 for a pop
Mm.
with PSA. So we'll go to with BGS, who has 5 for this Panini Titanium card. Pretty cool looking. I dig Panini Titanium. Let me zoom back out here so everyone can see it. But always like to bring up Panini cards when we can. So There you go. Panini Titanium. So, Josh, the BGS 9.5 Papa's card is 3. And there's 5 total graded copies. The last sale of a 9.5 was on June 30th of 2021 via eBay, verified at Terapeak for $40.36 US. However, a BGS 9 copy did sell on March 4th of 2023 via eBay for $50 US. So do not come up very often. There's not a lot out of them. Someone jumped on it, so that's probably why it's a little bit more than the 9.5 sold a year or two earlier.
Do we put Hoffman's girlfriend, fiance / wife person on the struggle bus, Troy?
Oh, she might have to be. I mean, I don't know. I hope that's all figured out. I hope whoever needed it got help, but that's insane. Just don't do that, people. Yeah. Don't harass people.
Sometimes it's good to put the phone down and regain the real world a little bit and not live off of the dopamine rush of likes, comments, shares, all that good stuff.
Agree 100%.
All right, Troy, it's time for another edition of Who's Hot in the Struggle Bus.
All right.
We are on week 22 already in the 2023-24 NHL season. It's, of course, where we take a look at players that are dominating the NHL and then try to see if their play is translating to maybe some increased hobby values. And then we also take a look at the strugglers too, the guys who have their ticket punched for the struggle bus. And of course, we're going to start this week with our picks for who's hot. So first guy Troy had to pick is Pasta. David Pasta.
Right.
In his last 7 games played, he has 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points. And if you're watching on YouTube, I can't remember what outdoor, if this was the Winter Classic or some other outdoor game, but there's like a million pictures of him on like Google Images in the crazy Oakleys and stocking cap, and there's some of the most epic pictures of all time.
Yeah,
It's worth your time.
Fantastic picture.
Yeah, what a look. So yeah, 4 goals, 7 assists, and 11 points in the last 7 games is pretty good. Brings his season total, Troy, to 40 goals, 53 assists for 93 points in 66 games played, averaging 1.41 points per game this season. His 93 points are 4th in the NHL currently. His 40 goals ties him with Nathan MacKinnon for 4th as well. And if you look at his last 5 seasons, including the one we're currently in, here's his goal totals. In 2019, he had 48 goals. Then 2020 was a COVID year. The season was shortened. He only played 48 games. He had 20 goals. So kind of write that off, I guess. But then came back with 40 goals in 2021, 61 goals in 2022, and 40 goals and now counting in 2023. So for the last almost, if you, again, give him a pass for 2020, he's kind of been an automatic 40 goal scorer every year. And then if you look at my favorite window of time, which is becoming last 5 years stats, over the last 5 years, he's 4th in the NHL with 426 points, tied with Artemi Panarin. And then ahead of him in points are only McKinnon, Draisaitl, and McDavid. He's 3rd in the NHL in goals in the last 5 years with 209, and only Leon Draisaitl and Austin Matthews have more goals. Troy Pasta is 27 years old, right? Should be in the smack of middle of his prime. He should, you would think, have 5 to 7 years of prime production years left. You know, I don't know if he's a hobby superstar, but he's definitely a hockey superstar, and he probably should be a hobby superstar. He checks every single box.
Yep.
Big market, huge point producer, top goal scorer in the NHL. I really hope the hobby can. I feel like over the last year or so that the chase or kind of hobby prestige has grown a little bit for Pasta, and I hope it continues to move in that direction because, like I said, and I don't know, do you agree that he's basically certifiably an NHL star and should be a hobby elite as well?
Oh yeah, definitely should be in the hobby elite. But it's funny, we've kind of talked about him when we first started our show. He was one of those guys that kind of baffled us. He was one of those guys where we couldn't understand why he didn't get more hobby love. But I do feel like you said, as we went on with this show, we get a lot more discussion, messages, and stuff on Pasta, and I feel like he is picking up a little bit. But yes, he is definitely a little. I don't know. He's a hobby. He should be a hobby stud. He's definitely a hockey stud, but more room to grow there on the hobby side.
And when you learn too of like the timeline and evolution, and boy, words are not coming to me, and evolution of the hobby. He's a 2014 guy, which had a much lower print run, as we
Hmm.
know, than 2015 when Connor McDavid, the Young Gun year, came out, and Upper Deck kind of ramped up for that. And then he had the whole thing where he didn't want to sign a lot of autographs, so there aren't a
Yep.
lot of rookie autographs, especially on card autos. So for those reasons too, it makes his stuff pretty rare.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a little surprising that even though the values have gone up for sure, that there's not even more of a chase. So Troy, he is a 2014 Young Guns PSA 10 pop 204. Think about that, 204. Uh, Keep that in mind when we talk about my next guy.
Yeah.
40% gem rate, last sold for 968 US on February 12th. It is up about 13% in the past month and 11% in the past 3 months. So the hobby is definitely catching on. Okay, you got to zoom in, Troy, if you can, a little bit from your.
Sure.
My new hobby obsession is weird mouth photos of. If you're watching on
All right. Let's
YouTube.
try this. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. That is something. I don't. It's wild to me. Some players. I always feel like I can't believe some of these guys go without mouth guards, but I guess
Yeah,
they just chew on them when they're in their mouth. But yeah, that's the crazy face stuff. Is I don't know why we're so fascinated with it, but it's funny.
I just never knew how prevalent it is.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh yeah.
these guys have like uncontrollable weird facial expressions when they play, or some photographer or photo editor at Upper Deck is doing them dirty. But that is our
Yeah.
first guy in Who's Hot for this week, Pasta David Pasternak.
All right, Pasta. Now before we get into my guy Josh, we do the little preamble here, the little intro. So again, we said the Sharks were a hot mess. I feel like New Jersey also might be a little bit of a hot mess right now, where they fired their coach. They're in sixth place in the Metropolitan Division. They did make some trade deadline moves, which were odd, I guess, to me. That seems like they were moves that should have been made earlier, especially addressing their goaltending. I don't know
Yeah,
why you would wait so long. I really don't know why they waited so long because they had kind of horrendous goaltending all season, and now they decide to start moving on that. But it's a little nuts. But Josh, there's one player on this team who figures now's the time. I guess there's a couple players. You'll
yeah.
get to one, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Timo Meyer. And I got to bring him up. There he is. There's our boy, stick handle with the puck. But yes, Timo Meyer, the 27-year-old Swiss forward, has been on an absolute tear since February 27th. In his last 6 games, Josh, Meyer has 7 goals, 3 assists for 10 points for a healthy 1.7 points per game. This is a guy, there's no assist machine here. He's scoring goals, 7 goals. I like it. I don't want to see any more Josh Morrissey's. We talked about him enough. I want goal scorers. On the season, Meyer has 18 goals, 16 assists for 34 points in 51 games played. Meyer did miss 13 games this season due to an abdominal injury and a lower body injury. So he had 2 kind of stints. I don't know if it's the same ab injury, but I'm going off the injury report. Currently, he's on pace for 46 points, which would be the lowest since his 2020-21 season, which is a little worrying, I would say, given Meyer signed a huge 8-year deal with an average annual value of 8.8 million US dollars recently. However, when you look at the deal, I get why the Devils made it, why they locked him up, and he's also 27, so he's coming into those prime playing years. And Josh, I feel like we got to bring up the age curve again at some point. We need to look into that again.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone's producing more earlier, and maybe 28, 29, 30 is not the prime anymore. It's kind of where they're tailing off. But a lot more smarter people do research on that. For his career, Timo Meier has 181 goals, 183 assists, so pretty even there. 364 points in 523 games played. All right, Josh brought his Young Guns. He's a 2016 Young Guns, PSA 10 pop of 299, gem rate of 72%. Last sale of this card that I could find was on March 9th of 2024 via eBay, verified in Terapeak for $48.32 US. Most of the previous sales in 2024 of this card have been in the 20 to 35 US dollar range. So I don't know if the trade made someone something in their head, made them go out and buy this, but that really seems like the only real catalyst that gets why this card jumped. But just remember that if you're going to look at this card, that last sale maybe is a little jumpy, and I don't know. It just seems like a big jump for a trade being the catalyst. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, they traded him.
What's that?
They traded Timo Meier.
Did I say that? Hold on a sec. Did I just? No. I didn't mean to say trade. I was the 20 to 35 US dollar range. Sorry, I looked at. I had a wrong comment next to him. No, it's not. They didn't trade him. I was looking at something else.
Well, he was traded last year to the Devils, and I think the idea was, for size, right? They needed kind of that powered forward role that he's supposed to, because they're a bunch of little itty bitty guys.
Yeah, I meant to type in therapy and I put trade, so that's why I got all confused. Yes, don't listen to me. I'm just babbling. Just remember there's a spike on the last sale. Just remember that when if you're interested in this card, maybe don't see if you can get a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I would be pretty upset, I think, if I was a Devils fan, having given him $9 million a year and cruising at 34 points at this point. And really, I mean, if you look at, you're right, his last couple weeks have been pretty awesome. But he's got 10 of his 34 points in the last 7 games.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Or 6 games, even.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic, Troy. So for the next or the final nomination for Who's Hot, we're sticking with the Devils, who have been a pretty big dumpster fire, like you mentioned. And it got me thinking last night too. I think the disappointments of this season is going to end up being that when we came into 2023, we had, and even looking at it from the hobby point of view too, a number of kind of young, exciting teams that we were hopeful would take that next jump and compete for a playoff spot. The Devils, of course, were in the playoffs last year. But if you look at like the Devils, the Buffalo Sabres, who else? Some people were excited maybe about Anaheim, but I don't know if people had great expectations. Columbus was, another team that people, and then Ottawa is the one I was thinking of. It's all kind of, they've sort of reverted back to their sort of typical bottom dwelling, far out of the playoffs kind of situation, which kind of stinks. But yeah, so it is sort of ironic that we're picking 2 Devils players, given that they produce really well, but you look at it too, it hasn't really translated to wins for their team. And so I had to go with Jack Hughes, who's had 3 goals, 8 assists for 11 points in the past couple weeks, bringing his 2023-24 season totals up to 21 goals, 41 assists for 62 points in just 48 games played. And I think that's been the big issue, of course, with Hughes this season, is only playing in 48 games of the 64 that the Devils have played so far. If you just look at his current production, Troy, on an 82 game pace, that's 36 goals and 106 points. So he's played well when he's been on the ice, but it's sort of the injury thing that keeps coming back. And I don't know if it's a size thing, that seems to be the default way we look at with all these little guys when they get hurt, is try to blame their size, or if he's just unlucky, or he's not protecting himself enough, because there's been lots of small NHL players that haven't had tons of injury issues too. And I know this has sort of stifled his development early in his career as well. But I don't know. Do you think the size thing gets overrated in injuries, or is it a legitimate concern?
I think it's a legit concern. I think the size issue, and it's interesting. Smaller guys recently, they're starting to do a little analysis. You saw this with Bedard with his injury, but now some other things. You've seen him get rocked a couple times, and and I know I'm talking about Bedard more than Hughes, but Bedard is, you see, like he's not really protecting himself, and it's kind of worrying some of these younger players that are small, maybe haven't had the best growing up or skill on how to protect themselves from big hits. So that, I think size thing will always be a little bit of a worry for these smaller dudes, especially more recent guys.
Yeah, I wonder too if like as the college game and juniors that it seems like they're taking the physicality more and more out of the game and giving these small guys a lot of freedom. So I don't know if they're I'm just conjecture here, right? And guessing probably a little bit if they now get to the NHL and they're not used to having to protect themselves to the degree
Yeah.
they do.
Well, plus in
I
the
don't know.
U.S., well, in the U.S. youth hockey now, you can't check until Bantams. So there's
Mhm.
that. Where when I played, we used to be able to check in Pee-wees, but what you're supposed to do, you're still supposed to teach checking and body contact in Pee-wees, but a lot of associations don't. So there's just another that 2 year behind development wise on checking and how to properly check and how to protect yourself from a check and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and one of the reasons after seeing how well he's played in the past couple weeks, why I wanted to pick Hughes is to kind of look in because he was other than the whole Bedard phenomenon, he's the
Mhm.
guy, the one kind of true hobby breakout that we had at the beginning of the year. He was on a tear when the season started, then he gets injured and misses a
Mhm.
bunch of games, and he's been pretty quiet, I think, or a lot more quiet hobby wise since then. Again, it doesn't help that his team hasn't played super well either. Right now, they're 31, 29, and 4, 66 points, and it's going to be really tough for them to make. They have to jump a couple teams, even to get to a
Yeah.
wild card spot at this point. Their goalie situation has been a disaster. You mentioned they had fired their coach, Lindy Ruff, and it's just not been a great year so far in New Jersey. Getting back to Hughes, though, Troy, still just 22 years old, so very, very young.
Yep.
Of course, has immense talent. And I think if you can find a way to play 70, 75 games a year and kind of have that be the baseline, that the sky could still be the limit for Jack Hughes. And kind of looking at that too. So I went back and basically this is his fifth year in the league. So in his rookie year, he played 61 games in 2019, 56 games in the COVID year, which is actually pretty good,
Yeah.
right? Because that's almost full season. Then only 49 games in 2021-22. Did play 78 games last year and then 48 games this season. So it's like every other year, it seems like he misses significant amount of time. And getting back to the size a little bit, he is 5'11", so it's not like he's super short, but I think it's the slightness. It's 175 pounds, which I can't imagine he's much more than that, if anything, because he's seems
Yeah.
like a pretty small guy. Mentioned he got off to a hot start, and then the injuries took their toll. But even looking though, since the start of this year, so going back to around like October 10th, it still has been you'd have to call it a breakthrough year for him in the hobby. 257 sales now for more than 500 since the start of the season on the secondary markets, and then 148 cards have sold for more than 1,000. He's a 2019-20 Young Guns PSA 10 Troy Pop 4,809 with a 75% gem rate, last sold
Mm.
for 215 US on March 7th. It is down 17% in the past 2 weeks, down 33% in the past 3 months. Troy, this card has the second highest PSA 10 pop count of any hockey card.
Yeah.
Behind only, you want to take a guess here?
Yeah.
The
I
only
can already
one with
tell
the,
you who it is.
yeah.
My boy, Kirill
Kaprizov,
Kaprizov.
Troy.
Yeah.
4,969 PSA 10s. We are the 31 away from the first hockey card to have 5,000 PSA 10s.
Nice.
And remember when I said kind of stick a pin in that and looking at like Young Guns and why we talk about gem rate as super important. Because remember when Hughes was popping off at the beginning of the year, people were getting up to $450. I think maybe even a couple of sales like 500 for his Young Guns PSA 10. And we even at the time we were like, no, don't do that. There's lots of other better Hughes cards. Well, the first guy I talked about was Pasternak, who has a pop of 204.
Yeah.
204 compared to 4,809. Right. So when you look at like his Young Guns at 215, it's like based on the player, of course his value should be higher than that. But when you have near 5,000 copies now,
Yeah.
it can't hold its value. It just can't. And
Yeah.
it's an awesome card too. I've always really liked the look of this card. And so I think that this is a card you buy as just to have in your collection,
Yeah.
and you can't count on it to go up in value because the acceleration of the pop count seems to be exceeding his play
Mhm.
at this point. All right. Well, that's who's hot. And right on cue, Troy. Even though we struggle sometimes, it's like 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. You're in some random hotel. Your son's trying to sleep. But the struggle bus is actually a little bit more reliable than we are at this point. So who do we got on the bus this week?
Well, before we get into it, I'm gonna just complain. The struggle is getting real because obviously I'm in Florida, but I turned off the fan in the room to lessen the background noise. And boy, it's starting to get hot.
Oh,
So if I start
you're gonna be
profusely
in a flop
sweating,
sweat by the end of the show.
if I start profusely sweating, you'll know why. Okay, Josh, here we go. You gotta bring them up so everyone can see. This is a great picture I found, by the way. There he is, Capo Kakinen. Oh boy, you talk about a brutal season. I feel like I'm being very harsh this episode, but it is what it is. Kakinen has been struggling most of this season, and again, he plays on the Sharks. He did play on the Sharks, which are a complete mess this year. And to be honest, Josh, I think Kakinen probably should have been on the struggle bus a lot earlier in the season. Again, his whole season has been struggle bus worthy. However, he's kind of a guy, San Jose, West Coast, off my periphery a little bit. But with the recent news that he got traded to the Devils, I was like, let me look at this guy a little bit more. And you know what? It's probably a good thing he did get traded. Probably needs one of those change of scenery guys. Something had to change with him. So over the past month, Josh, Kakinen has a record of 0 wins, 6 losses, 1 overtime loss, with a 4.66 goals against average, 0.874 save percentage, and no shutouts in 7 games played. And Josh, if you even go back farther and just look at his whole stat on the season, it doesn't get much better. Kakinen has a record of 6 wins, 20 losses, 3 overtime losses, 3.81 goals against average, and a .895 save percentage with no shutouts in 31 games played. So again, him being traded to New Jersey, it's probably the best thing that could happen to him right now. Just get out of San Jose, start new. And again, we're familiar with Kakinen and Josh. He played for the Wild for 2.5 seasons. And when he was here, I was trying to think, I just thought he was pretty average. I don't think he ever excited anyone. I was a lot more excited when Kemper was here than I was for Kakinen. But he's kind of those middling guys for the Wild when he was in net. And for his career, Kakinen has a record of 48 wins, 63 losses with 15 overtime losses, a 3.36 goals against average, and a .898 save percentage with 4 shutouts in 133 games played. The more I look at that stat line and just what's going on with Kakinen, it really does seem like if things don't improve with him, it might be hard for him to find an NHL role. I mean, maybe he's going to be like one of those trusty backups that just hangs out as a backup the rest of his career. But those stat lines, again, a lot of that's with San Jose and the Wild, I guess. So maybe not the greatest help in front of you, but little concerning there.
Yeah, when I saw the
All
trade
right, Jeff.
with the Devils, Troy, because they traded
Yeah,
Vanasek for him, basically, right? The Devils did.
I think so. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That it just felt like a total change of scenery move.
Yeah, you take our goalie who's struggling, and we'll take your goalie who's struggling, and we'll see what happens. All right, there. Talk about the Wild. There he is, Josh. Second is a 2019 Young Guns PSA 10 pop at 67, generated at 64%. Last sale I could find was on February 11th of 2024 via eBay, verified in Terapeak for $26 US. Now, Josh, in August of 2023, there was a sale of this card for $70 US, but it has just treaded down ever since. So there we go.
So I just verified that we're not completely stupid. Yeah. That it was in fact the trade, and it was, right? So Vitek Vanacek was traded for Kaapo Kakkonen. Here's the first headline though that I see on Google News. And I get it. Listen, everyone has to play the clickbait game a little bit, right? You got to get people interested in your content, and we're content creators too, Troy. We're YouTubers, Troy.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
I guess we get it. But here's from Pucks and Pitchforks, probably a really great publication. Not familiar with their stuff. I got to give you this headline though. Breaking: New Jersey Devils trade Vitek Vanacek for Kaapo Kakkonen in shocking move. Really?
No, I don't think that's shocking.
Are we going with shocking? Is that the
Shocking is us having a show 100% factually correct every episode.
pronouncing
we
any
do a lot of
French name
research.
correctly?
Yeah, that's more likely. I actually do think we do a ton of research on the fact stuff, but pronunciations, forget about it.
All right, last guy on the struggle bus this week, Troy. I'm going back to back with players back for their Minnesota Wild guys. Maybe I'm being negative on my team here, and it's kind of been disappointing. So last week I selected our buddy Brock Faber for the struggle bus, and then I got to put Marco Rossi on it this week. And if you're asking, well, why? And the 22-year-old Austrian forward Troy has 0 goals and 0 assists in his last 8 games played. That's not great.
Yeah, this is supposed to be our coming out year this year. What's going on?
This is actually a photo if you're watching on YouTube from his Gordie Howe hat trick game. But I just had to, it's like you look at images of guys when you're trying to like put them on the struggle bus, and rightfully so. Most of the images of players that are out there are celebratory, right?
Yeah.
Kind of get the happy shots, and so it's like the only one I could find where basically he's getting punched on the side of the head. So yeah, it's basically I think emblematic of how his last couple weeks have gone.
Yeah.
Somehow though, Troy, he's still hanging on to third place on the rookie scoring leaderboard behind Bedsy, Connor Bedard, and our guy Brock Faber. Just 1 point though, still ahead of Luke Hughes. I think he's got 33 points on the season so far with 17 goals. Those 17 goals are actually still tied with Bedard, and a rookie that's kind of flown a lot under the radar, but has been in the top 5 for scoring. It's Dmitry Voronkov, I think is how you say his name. If you look at Calder eligible rookies, maybe a guy we should look at a little bit. I don't know if he has any hobby love whatsoever, but I have noticed he's been like I said, in the top 5 for weeks now. Going back to Rossi though, the Wild have not been great in their last 10 games either, going 5-4-1. They were sellers at the trade deadline, and so barring a total miracle, they won't make the playoffs, which is kind of a buzzkill if you're chasing like Faber or Rossi, other Wild rookies. You're not going to maybe see any playoff heroics, which can definitely help accelerate their hobby market. And I got it, Troy, because we haven't talked much since you've been gone. Do like a 30-second sidebar here for a little bit of Wild wine line. So I'm sure you saw Wild traded Pat Maroon, Connor Dewar, and Brandon Duhaime.
The whole checking line. We got rid of them.
The whole checking line, which they're not big point producers. But the one thing that in the last couple of years that we've noticed is when there's not like beef out there to protect our guy, dollar bill Kirill, he's tended to get killed.
Yeah. So you're saying the Winnipeg Jets are just going to take runs at Kaprizov forever now if we don't get anyone besides Foligno, who's injured.
Well, Foligno's always injured, Troy.
Yeah.
I honestly, Kirill's going to he's going to get murdered out on the ice.
Yeah.
And so I don't get it from that perspective, but okay, Wild wine line over. So when you look at Rossi, and we've probably made this point before, but it's probably worth mentioning again. He's had an awesome year and like third again in rookie scoring. But I still think the hobby at large probably doesn't know what to make of him, and it kind of makes sense, right? He had that horrible sort of false start to his career last
Mhm.
year, where in the first 19 games he had 1 point, and then he was sent down to the HL for the remainder of the year. And every time he goes down to the HL, he plays awesome, and so then he starts
Yep.
in the NHL this year, has an awesome season, and has hit a little bit of a rough patch, which isn't uncommon for rookies. So I don't think it's like
Mhm.
means his career's fallen off the cliff by any point. But I think what the hobby is going to need to see on him is consistency in production, right? Like
Yep.
probably any player, right? But that's going to be a big thing for Rossi. But if anyone is sort of thinking about either him as a Wild fan and collecting, or if you're like the investor type guy or gal, here's one thing I'd point to that I think he has going for him in his favor, and it's very situational, Troy. The Wild have been desperate for decent centers for years now. And we have Joel Eriksson, which we all love.
Yep.
But beyond him, we've had nobody
Yep.
really. I mean, we talked last year a lot about how we had like Sam Steele centering
Sam
the
Steele.
Kaprizov
Yep.
line. And so what I mean by that is Rossi is going to get every single opportunity
Yep.
imaginable. And and he's going to be like we've talked about, we've seen with a lot of these young guys how important it is for them to get top 6 minutes to play with better players. And so even though he's in a rough patch, he's sort of been, the Wild, I think, are moving their lines all over the place right now, trying to find
Mhm.
something that works. So I think as of late, he's been centering the second line with Zuccarello and somebody else, where Boldy and maybe not like in Kaprizov have been on the top line with Eriksson Ek. So, but point being, I don't see him relegated to the fourth line role or back to the HL, because we have nobody to play center other
Yeah.
than Eriksson Ek. So, are you a Rossi guy? Are you bullish on his future? Or do you think he'll be a
I'm
just kind of
a
a
I'm a you better show me something.
okay?
I don't like these streaks. I don't like streaky players. Obviously, it happens. I get it, and I know he's got that fog of the whatever. He was the one that took a while to get recovered from COVID, right? He had almost like
Yeah,
a
he had
year
those
of COVID fog, basically, or whatever you want to call it.
long COVID, they call it, right?
So, I mean, I would definitely like to see a little more consistency, but I'm willing to give him a chance. He's shown enough like sparks that if he can just put it all together and can be consistent, it's really exciting.
Well, Marco Rossi is a 2023 or 2022 23 Young Guns, PSA 10, pop 366, 36% gem rate, last over 105 US on March 6th. Maybe an
Yeah.
outlier sale because it's up about 33% since the beginning of March. If I wanted to buy this card, I think I would kind of target the $75 range is where it
Yeah.
seems to sell most consistently. All right, Troy, so for week 22, who's hot? Pretty good list. David Pastrnak, Timo Meyer, and Jack Hughes. A couple of Devils. Their team is definitely not hot though. And then on the struggle bus, we had former Wild goalie Capo Kakinen, who now is getting the fresh start in New Jersey, and then our boy Marco Rossi. All right, got to make a quick mention for Gong Show partner and sponsor Slab Sharks. Of course, we are super thankful to them for their support of our show. The current Slab Sharks weekly eBay auction is live. You can head to slabsharks.com to check out all the hockey cards available this week and to place your bids. Should they just rename to like the Bedard Auction Company, Troy, or something like that? It's going to
Well,
be
it's funny. I went
insane.
to the website. If you're watching on YouTube, and it's like boom, the pop up for the payout promo, and I love how they got the one with the little glasses on. If you zoom in far enough, you can see it.
Yeah, and they should, because they're offering a 98% payout on all Bedard cards, which is insane, and which is why they're quickly flooding in. Let's just say, because there's a lot of them already in this week's auction.
Yep.
It's amazing how fast people can work. The set's been out like 3 days, and there's a ton of cards in the auction. So we're gonna go through. I picked out 5 of my favorites, Troy. There's a few
Yep.
Bedards, of course, and then believe it or not, speaking of shocking, there's actually other hockey cards in this hobby besides Connor Bedard. I don't know if you knew that, but
Yeah, I
breaking
wouldn't have
news.
known it. Yeah, the last a week or so.
Okay, so we're gonna start out with the Bedards, and got to go with a monster, Troy.
Yep.
A Bedard Young Guns Outburst Red out of 25. It's a pretty awesome card. I mean, with the color match
Yeah.
and everything, I gotta admit, I'm would love to have a card like this. I'm not sure I'd love to have it at the price it goes for.
No.
I think the
No.
last I saw, and so what we're very, very early, as we mentioned, Sunday morning, and I think it was like almost 18,000 US already. And remember, this ends
Yep.
on Thursday. What do you guess this ends up at?
I'm guessing it probably hits 20. As much as it baffles my mind, it seems that's the way it's headed for, and probably maybe even higher than that. I've really noticed for this whole Bedard frenzy, it really makes you question what do you really know. I'd never guess this card would go for that much, but it's going to go. I bet
Mhm.
over 20,000.
I'm almost wondering 25 to 30. I mean, we'll see kind
Yeah.
of with the next few days if people are still in mania mode or manic about Bedard. But yeah, that's crazy that to have and we got some other stats later on that are kind of mind
Yeah.
blowing. So from here, Troy, we go. It seems like ho hum, but hey, there's also a Bedard Young Guns exclusives out of 100. So that I'm sure that this will be a pretty big card as well. And then to
Hold on.
cap off
Just got
the
there. You go.
yeah,
You got zooming in our boy back here.
he's your favorite guy, right? His wife doesn't look as interested there. So yeah,
So.
I'm obsessed with players' mouths, and you're into the crowd in the background. Okay, well, I can't even remember if they kept the background in on this card. The Young Guns clear cut. Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. You can see it clear cut.
So you've got the acetate version. Um, so again, 3 huge cards this week in the Slap Sharks Weekly eBay auction. So if you're looking for Bedard, it's definitely the spot to be. Now, I did mention there are other hockey cards in the auction. So a couple that stood out to me. Speaking of Young Guns exclusives, a 2021-22 Upper Deck Cole Caulfield Troy Young Guns
Yeah, I have to
exclusives.
make a. I have to give a little bit of. Oh, here it is. I did find the actual image. I couldn't find the image in our drive, but I went to Slab Sharks and actually
Oh,
looked it up. I was worried. I've just pulled a random one, but no, this is the card. If you're watching on YouTube.
yep. Very nice looking card. I think there's a high gloss in last week's auction. So a couple big
Mm,
Cole Caulfield cards in consecutive weeks. And then another card that I really love, and it always surprises me it doesn't go for more. And so if you're an
yeah.
OV fan, this is one I would look at. It's a 2005 06 Black Diamond Alexander Ovechkin, Alexander Ovi Ovechkin, as I like to call him, rookie quad gems, BGS 10 pristine. I want to say these sell for like less than a Young Guns PSA 10.
Wow.
And for
Yeah.
me, I would rather have this card any day of the week than that. It I worry because in extended series, they run these tributes and they tend to sell for like $2 now,
Yeah.
that people don't get how exclusive that this card is as a result. But I don't know, are you a fan? I've probably asked you this before, but are you a fan of this card or not?
I'm not. I'm not a big fan of it. It's to me. It's I don't know what it is. A little plain for me, I guess. But I get your reasoning on why you like it, and it makes sense. And maybe it's because I'm not an Ovi guy either. So I don't know. It
Yeah.
just doesn't do much for me.
Well, again, these are just a few of the cards that just stood out to me. So you got to go to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction, find your favorites, and of course, place your bids. And we talked about why there's so many Connor Bedards because, well, first of all, there's the 98% payout rate. And when you think about that, like how ridiculous that is, Troy,
Yep.
you can't find credit card processing fees for 2%. So
I know.
I don't know the Slab Sharks financials, but I'm really questioning if there's they're making. I'm assuming they're losing money on these, and probably smart marketing in that regard. But I think the other reason, again, why people go to Slab Sharks is not just for deals like the 98% payout rate. It's for because they make it super easy to sell your cards. They do all the work. We talk about this all the time. They take fantastic photos. They do all the listings for you, answer buyer questions, hunt down payment from auction winners, ship your cards to Canada and the US, which is horrible trying to ship internationally.
Mhm.
And then, of course, handle any post sale issues. So you just send them your cards or drop them off and they do the rest. Again, slapsharks.com for complete consignment information and to get started consigning your cards with them today. Hobby News! They get to do that
Hobby
last year.
news. Oh,
Yeah,
hobby news.
Hobby News.
I did it twice. Lots of
We have one
hobby. Oh.
story. It's kind of a big one. We collabed. We don't collab much, but this is a collaboration project. So we kind of go back and forth. on this one. Probably the biggest news related to the hobby has been the trade deadline, which was this
Yeah.
Friday, March 8th. Saw a bunch of action. Feels like a little bit, when I was working on this, I don't know if you had this thought, Troy, but we don't see like the huge like mega trades hardly ever in sports anymore.
Yeah, I think probably a part of it is enough people have gotten burned on them where they're exciting at first, but they never pan out. And I'll just say we're obviously Minnesota fans, and the Herschel Walker trade in football will always be scorched in our minds. How basically how to provide another team with a dynasty that isn't you. We gave Dallas basically all the pieces for them to be a awesome football team in the whatever in the '90s, whenever it was. But yeah, big trades are kind of hard to come by. I mean, there's still some big ones, but definitely not huge blockbusters where there's like 8 guys changing teams or anything
Or like a Gretzky
like
type
in one
trade
deal.
where like if
Yeah, yeah,
never say never, but like in 2 years, if
yeah,
the Oilers traded McDavid or something like that, pretty exciting. So, you look at these guys and there's some name. I mean, it's not like it's a bunch of nobodies, but and we'll talk about it kind of player by player. I just don't know
yeah,
if any of them really kind of move the hobby needle, like where people are gonna go
yeah.
crazy. You get a lot of these guys that maybe are kind of on the tail end of their hobby prime or past their hobby prime. So we'll go through and I'll let you we'll
Yep.
kind of probably not every deal, but the ones that stood out to us, and you can maybe talk about the hockey side, and then I'll kind of finish with the hobby side. So the first one, Troy, was, and yeah, this is where I can't wait to get your perspective. It's the Tomas Hurdle from San Jose to the Vegas Knights. And there, yeah, and a lot of people have had this take, but there's got to be something going on with how they're manipulating these loopholes to, because sure enough, Mark
Yeah.
Stone is injured again, and they're somehow like going way over the salary cap kind of thing, or well, not, but they're kind of finding those loopholes and adding crazy players that no other team seems to be able to do. So what's happening?
Well, here's the deal. So let's first put the deal out there. So it's Vegas gets Hurdle, a third round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, and a third round pick in the 27 NHL draft from the Sharks for David Edstrom, and a first round pick in the 25 NHL draft. So that's the deal. Now, again, congratulations, Vegas. You do these deals all the time. I don't know how much. When you say the smartest people in the room, it seems like Vegas GMs or Vegas front office are the smartest people in the room. So here's the deal: they get a top six forward from San Jose, and guess what? San Jose said, okay, yeah, we're going to also retain 17% of his salary. So they also got that going for him. Plus, Josh Hurdle's on injured reserve right now, and it's been like a week to week thing. And this is where we're getting into this whole salary cap thing. And I'm going to say it right now: I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a. I don't know the whole cap, the collective bargaining agreement, but this is where you see Vegas just sit there and they're like, okay, we're gonna wait. He'll get better. We're gonna wait till the playoffs start, and then we're gonna activate everyone. So Stone, Hurdle, all these guys. Because guess what? When the playoffs start, the cap goes away. There's no cap in the playoffs. So these teams are getting smart and they're figuring out how to manipulate this. And I'm sure Vegas is gonna figure it out. I think the NHL at some point has to do something about it, but I'm guessing they can't do anything until the next collective bargaining agreement. But it's pretty nuts what's going on. And then you got Hurdle, and this is where Vegas made this deal. This isn't like a loan. Hurdle's got 6 years left on his contract after this year, I think. So he's probably in the Golden Knights plan going forward. So it's not just a rent a player kind of thing. But man, as much as the Vegas just I think got a lot for this one. They did a home run on it, I think.
And if you're San Jose, are you happy with the return on that? I mean, I suppose his career is
I
being wasted right now, and so it's like, why keep him? But
Yeah.
I don't know. Vegas could win the cup again, so you're picking at the end of the first round with that first rounder. I don't know David Edstrom. Maybe he'll end up being a good player, but they seem to just be rebooting again for the whole probably Will Smith thing. And I'm
Well, if you
assuming at this point
listen,
he'll stay in college as long as possible.
yeah. Well, if you listen to was the Spittin' Chicklets. They kind of went off on like first round picks and draft picks and how they're not that important. And some of these teams are finding that out, and they're making really good deals for themselves in the now by giving up first round picks. So I think that's kind of what in play here too.
Mhm.
It seems Vegas is always making the right move. It's crazy.
Tomas Hertl is a 2013 Young Gun. PSA 10 pop just 208. Gem rate is 78%. Last sale of a Hertl Young Gun PSA 10 was on March 9th, 2024 via eBay, verified in Terapeak for $45 US. Previous
Hmm.
sales were in the $22 to $36 range, so a little bit of a bump from the trade there. Not a lot of volume on this card. Sells, 3, 4 times a month. He's a guy who's probably really good to have in your team. Kind of a core guy. Will
Yeah,
produce, but not a huge hobby chase. So
yeah,
that's kind of move number one. Maybe the biggest name, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, was Jake
oh yeah,
Gensel, Troy.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
so
This
you want to
was.
kind of get into the deal there.
Yeah, so Hurricanes acquired Gensel and defenseman Ty Smith from the Pittsburgh Penguins for forward Michael Bunting, prospect Vasily Ponomarov, and Vili oh boy, Koivunen. I'm going to go with the rights to
Okay.
forward Cruz Lucius, a conditional first round pick in the 24 NHL draft, and a conditional fifth round pick in the 24 NHL draft. A lot of stuff there. So yes, by far, I think this is the biggest name of any of the trades that happened. And Gensel obviously brings a lot to Carolina. He was arguably, I think, the best player available at the trade deadline, and Carolina made a move on him. I don't know. Pittsburgh, I don't know. They decided, you're getting a lot of prospects, and I guess Michael Bunting. I don't know how exciting they should be about that, but the prospect piece. But I think Carolina basically got what they needed from this deal. They get a quality point producer. He's smart. Plus, he can play on the power play. So Carolina's just adding little pieces here and there to just help this team make a push for the playoffs. And I felt bad because they asked Crosby about the trade, and him and Gensel seemed to be pretty tight. And he was just kind of like, great player, great teammate, a friend. He did everything he possibly could in his time here. Just a privilege to play with him. So it looks like, Josh, do you think the rebuild is on in Pittsburgh? Because that would stink if it is for Crosby. Just like I've said before, I've never been the biggest fan of Crosby, but he's been growing on me the last couple of years. Just seeing kind of keeps reaching towards the end of his career, but he keeps producing points like crazy. So he'll probably never retire. He'll be like Yager. He'll be 50. But interesting what's going on there. I think Carolina made. I mean, that's a great move for Carolina and Pittsburgh. I don't know. Maybe they're in the rebuild mode. Get all these prospects, draft picks, and go from there.
Well, Gensel is more than a point per game this year. So he's got 52
Yeah.
points in 50 games played, along with 22 goals. So he might end up with like high 20s in goals. I would argue, Troy, if you don't, well, I should say, well, let me put it this way. You don't trade a player who's point per game if you're not rebuilding. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty clear sign. And, what I think this whole trade deadline too is now you're starting to hear this conversation around Crosby, which I think is almost an impossible one, right? Where the kind of the free Crosby sort of movement,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people sort of campaigning for him maybe to go to a team like Colorado and play with good buddy Nathan McKinnon and get a chance. But then it's like, could you imagine Sidney Crosby on any other team than Pittsburgh? But then the
Yeah.
flip side of that, Troy, is I mean, he's still playing well, and he's at the sunset of his, he's on the back nine of his career
Yep.
here. And where's the hope in Pittsburgh that he'll make it to the playoffs again?
Yep.
And
I agree.
especially if you're trading a guy like Gensel away, it's like, how do you replace, our guy Lou Nanny, right? Who we should have probably mentioned talking about the state tournament, legend in the state of Minnesota,
Yeah.
Gopher player, great GM of the North Stars, played in the NHL, just retired, I guess, from being the play-by-play guy or color commentator
Yep.
for the state boys high school hockey tournament. 60 years he did that, the state of
Yep.
Minnesota. But the reason why I bring him up is I heard it, and I probably said this before, a great interview with him one time where he talked about when he was GM of the North Stars, and he said the way I looked at building a team was, I said it's going to take, and he's probably in the context of like 1980s scoring, but he's like, it's going to take 225 goals to win the division. So then you go look at his roster and say, where am I getting 225 goals from? And so if you kind of think of that approach to building a team to make the playoffs, and you trade a guy who's more than a point per game with 22 goals on the season, you got to replace that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trading for draft picks, essentially, and Michael Bunting's and kind of an okay player, so you'll get some of that production, but he's a little bit of a kind of a oddball sort of
Yeah.
personality and player in the league. So yeah, I don't know. Gensel's the 2016 Young Guns. Um, Troy, well, you actually did this one, so I'm gonna let you talk about it because
Oh yeah. I forgot which was I did. Yes, that's those 2016 Young Guns. Now you gotta remember, and this always throws me for a loop with these guys. His Young Guns was one of those SP Authentic updates.
oh
So just remember that if you're looking for it. I mean, you can still find it if you do search for Jake Gensel Young Guns, but remember it's one of the SP Authentic updates. PSA 10 pop is 173 with a gem rate of 48%. And really, Josh, I was looking at this card and the hit pricing of it, and I just have no idea what's going on with this thing. So the card sold on March 1st of 2024 for 170 US dollars on eBay, verified in Terapeak. That is more than twice the next recent sale on February 17th of 2024 for 77 US dollars. And I believe the $77 one was an auction, and the recent one for 170 was a buy it now. But then looking at January 2024 sales of this card, it was around anywhere from 90 to 130 US dollars. So something just seems, it's really weird. Maybe a couple people, or that $77 guy or gal just got a great deal, but the 170 seemed like a jump. So I don't know. Ah, Josh, I just don't know what's going on anymore with these prices. Just be
I don't know.
aware. If
Maybe
you're
somebody
going
thought
for it.
that he was gonna get moved and there would be kind of a big run or something like that on his cards, which I wouldn't have predicted,
Yeah.
or a Pittsburgh fan feeling
No.
nostalgic, feeling that his time there was limited. But yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes. Well, we're gonna see, Troy, and when we get to Bedardapalooza, that there's a lot of people getting very aggressive in buying cards
Yes.
right now. We got to move on though to the next deal. A team that's got, according to you, our big rival here in Minnesota, a team that has gotten pretty aggressive at the trade deadline
Yeah.
in Tyler Toffoli.
Yeah. So the Jets get Tyler Toffoli, or Winnipeg. Winnipeg Jets get Tyler Toffoli from the Devils for a third round pick in the 2024 NHL draft and a second round pick in the 25 NHL draft. I mean, I didn't do a ton of research on this one. I mean, Winnipeg gets a goal scorer and a playmaker that they need. So Foley will also be very useful to add some punch on their power play. New Jersey, I can see kind of why they got rid of him. Being, if you look at his contract status, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the
Sure.
season. And with those guys, you have to make a decision on them. Are you going to try to resign them, or do you move and get something in return? Devils decided to get something in return. So that's kind of what the deal is. I I mean Winnipeg. I think it's a good move for them, but
Yeah.
I don't. It's one of those deals. It's a bigger name, but it's kind of like, yeah, okay. I'm
It's
not
a
the biggest
rental. They're trying
fan
to
either way.
go push their chips in, and given their attendance issues, I actually think it's a smart
Yeah,
move for them to get everyone kind of excited and try to make a run at it. Tyler Toffoli is
yeah,
a 2013 Young Guns, PSA 10 pop 201, 76% gem rate, last sold for 52 US on March 8th. It is up 100% in the past month. So there are some people, I guess, buying, but again, not much of a hobby chase there. The next guy, I don't know what to make of anymore. For a time,
I
he was a
know, I
pretty big
know.
name. We're talking about
Yep.
Vladimir Tarasenko, who feels like a little bit of a journeyman now as of late.
Yeah,
Florida Panthers acquired him from the Ottawa Senators, obviously looking for some scoring punch, but I'll let you kind of cover the deal there.
yeah. So the Panthers get Tarasenko from Ottawa for a conditional fourth round pick in the 24 NHL draft and a third round pick in the 25 NHL draft. Again, Panthers having a fantastic season again. They get Tarasenko. He's going to be a supporting piece to their puzzle. And the Panthers got the Senators to retain 50% of Tarasenko's salary. So again, nice bonus. You're seeing the whole salary retention is becoming such a big thing nowadays. And if you can get a team to take 50% of it, the team trading him to you to keep 50%, I mean, I think it's a win-win for Florida. You get a guy who has been the man. He can show he can score. If Pittsburgh or not Pittsburgh, the Panthers just want him to score, go for it. Great move. Get him out there. Don't make him. You put him with Kachuk. I don't know what you do. Put him with Kachuk. Put him on the first line. Do something with him, and just have him worry about scoring. So I think from Florida's point of view, it's a pretty good deal. Now we'll see if Tarasenko lives up to his end. But again, for a 50-cent salary reduction or retention for Ottawa taking that, go for it. If I'm Florida.
Mm-hmm. He's got 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points in 59 games played. So not elite level scoring, but definitely, if you're sort of a second line kind of a guy that, maybe he can be helpful there. And they're probably hoping he kind of gets a little fire in his belly there and maybe pumps his play up a little bit. Tarasenko is a 2013 Young Gun, PSA 10, pop 517. 75% gem rate, less sold, I think, in like the $65 range on March 9th. It is up a little bit, 21% in the past month. And he's kind of like a take a chance on me kind of a guy.
Yeah.
The last one's pretty interesting. It's been kind of, we didn't really sort of soap opera-y. It's Yevgeny Kuznetsov was dealt to the Hurricanes as well. So they're kind of making moves to let you kind of cover the details there.
Yeah. Hurricanes get Kuznetsov from the Capitals for a third-round pick in the 25 NHL draft. And Kuznetsov, like you said, it's kind of been soap opera what's going on. He's had a very rough season, has with Washington. 6 goals, 11 assists for 17 points in 43 games played. On February 5th, he enters the Players Assistance Program. He gets out of it a month later, and the Capitals promptly placed him on waivers, and just kind of an overall, just a bad deal, bad situation. Probably had to get out of Washington. So this makes a ton of sense. And the winner in this deal, I think, is Kuznetsov himself. Just get a new start. Go to someone that wants you. And again, like I said, Carolina again got Washington to retain 50% of Kuznetsov's salary. And I was reading like an analysis, and I kind of skimmed it, but they were saying that it made sense for Washington to retain that 50% of the salary rather than send him to the AHL for some. I don't know what the whole deal was, but there was some cap space or cap stuff that happens with that. So they said it actually made more sense for them to retain salary. So again, Carolina, I think, hey, get a guy in. He's shown promise in the past. Hopefully he's done with. I don't even know what the issues were. I don't think it ever came out.
Drugs.
But hopefully Oh, was it? Wow.
Yeah,
okay,
I think there's photos. I mean, I'm being a little speculative here, so trying to be as fair as possible. And then I think there's question, does he care as much anymore to be an NHL player and to be a top level player? So it's probably a little bit of a roll of the dice from Carolina in that perspective. No, we just talked about they got Gensel as well, but you can see that these teams are really loading up right now to try to take that next step in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I hope he got the help he needed. And again, I do think the NHL might want to take a look at that whole, hey, you get out of the Players Assistance Program and the next day you're waived. I mean, that seems harsh, but I guess it's a business. I get it.
Or you go into the Player Assistance Program for a week, and if that is your issue, drugs, I don't think that necessarily you're cured at that point either. So there's a lot of probably stuff you could look into there. Kuznetsov is a 2014 Young Guns, PSA 10, pop 219, 68% jam rate, less so for 35 US on February 15th, down about 3% in the past 3 months. Again, it's been a little bit of a downhill slide for him last couple years. So those are the big ones that really stood out to us. We may have missed a deal or two. I don't know, Troy, is there anyone on this list that you could see making any sort of hobby dent if they play well in the playoffs and their team does well?
I don't know, maybe Gensel, but
yeah,
there's not a lot of those hobby studs, which you don't expect, but maybe Tarasenko could get a bump if he hits some old magic and goes off for some points or some goals. But yeah, I Gensel's the one that Gensel personally is the one I want to watch the most. See how he does
Yeah.
with Carolina. And also, Josh, I got to make a PSA in case people are listening. Boy, I'm really hoping our recording of your audio is good because it sounds like crap on my. But I think it's my setup more than
I think it's
yours.
your
But oh,
internet
I'm getting
issues.
nervous. I'm getting
You stay
nervous now.
you
So
staying
we
on like a
apologize
Red
if it's
Roof
bad
Inn or
either
something
way.
like that, Troy?
No, it's a Holiday Inn Express, but their hotel Wi-Fi is junk. So I'm on my 5G hotspot. So I'm hoping it's that, but we'll see.
Jeez. All right, well, we're going to
I got
transition. We made it almost an hour and a half, Troy, without going into Bedardapalooza. I'm kind of proud of ourselves, but
you.
it has taken the hobby by storm, and so we want to talk
Yep.
about kind of the early winners, losers, and maybe lessons learned from all the Bedard mania that's happened in the last couple days. Again, since the release of 2023-24 Upper Deck Series 2 last Wednesday. I think it's
Yep.
safe to say people are all fired up, Troy. Just
Yeah.
about uh, with every thought, right? We've seen a bunch of opinions, emotions that you can think of, whether it be excited, elated, depressed, angry. It seems like it's kind of run the gamut. And I would say more so, to me, the hobby's more fired up right now than almost at any point since we've started our show. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that 100%. Now, I don't know if you mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it before we start this. So we had an Instagram post on the sealed wax case of
Yeah.
Series 2 that went for a lot of money. And I will say this, there's read if you want to see a lot of discussion both ways on the sale, on reporting of the sale and stuff like that, go read the comments. And I really like how you put it. We do this a lot. We put these record sales, or we put these high sales out there, record sales, whatever you want to call them. And the whole point is to generate some discussion. And that post is one of those you will see. There's a ton of comments all over the place, both ways, and there's a lot of good discussion in there. So if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the comment section on that post talking about the sealed series or the series 2 case that sold, and I want to say I don't know what it was, 4,000 something
Almost
US
$5,000.
dollars, almost 5,000 US dollars. Go read those comments and see just kind of thought process that people have in the hobby. I think it's a really good, like kind of a, I don't know what overview of what the different sides of the hobby are thinking.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And it is fun when you get those discussions. And just to add a tiny bit onto that and maybe reiterate what you said, that's really our goal is we try not to editorialize a lot in those posts. It's more just put out the facts. Here's something that sold. Here's what it sold for. Maybe add a point of context or two or like a fun fact around it. But then, like you said,
Yeah,
try to say, what do you think? And kind of get people's thoughts. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to see again, just an indication of how fired up people are. But getting
yeah,
back into the whole Bedardapalooza thing, got to say we're super early, so you got to keep that in mind as we're going through all of
yeah,
this. But I think it is worth recapping what's happened so far. We're going to take a look at kind of the baseline box prices, secondary market sales, and give kind of our opinions on winners, losers, and then lessons learned at that point. But if that Troy, we should start at kind of lay of the land. Like where are we at with secondary
yeah.
market right now, box prices, all that sort of stuff as kind of good context for our conversation. So keep in mind, we're really early Sunday morning, did all this research Saturday evening, and it's a very fluid situation. So things are changing every hour and every minute, but this is
Mhm.
kind of where the data is at the point that we recorded our show. So let's look at kind of where we stand in the cases boxes standpoint. Here in the US, Troy, David Adams case price is currently about 3,900 US, limit of one per person. Kind of interesting, right? So it makes you
Mhm.
wonder what their supply is like. They increased
Yeah,
hobby boxes now up to 330 US. So
yeah.
I got to tell you this, at this price, I'm out. You know,
Oh
we
yeah,
paid like 275 for our couple of hobby boxes, and which is kind of the limit. I don't know about you, Troy, but for me personally, and I'll get your comments in a minute, but here's something that I thought of in context of this. Right. So you pay 330 US on a hobby box. remember, you have a 12% chance of hitting a Bedard base Young Guns. And then let's just
Yep.
say that there's an additional 2% chance you're going to hit another big card that would pay for this. So whether it be a Bedard Young Guns parallel or like exclusives or high gloss of Leo Carlson or some like crazy rare Mario Lemieux card. I don't even know can't remember what's in there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say like conservatively, or so any other card that's maybe 200 or 250 or more, giving you a shot to break even on the box. Again, so I'm going to say conservatively that there's probably a less than 15% chance that you break even on a box, right? Here's an interesting point of context. You walk into any casino and play blackjack, you have a 42% chance of winning a hand. You have a less than 15% chance of kind of winning, if you want to call it, getting your value out of a hobby box in for 2023-24 Series 1 right now. Yes, one person's going to win $1 million, but again, at these, you just can't get your value out of these boxes.
Yeah.
You got an 88% chance of getting killed.
Well,
88.
at least with the blackjack, I can card count and at least put the odds in my favor.
I don't. Where are you at 330? Are you kind of on the
Oh,
same?
I'm out. I'm out. You'll see in mailbag. I'm a little. I don't know. Am I becoming jaded, Josh? Do you need to talk me off a ledge? But this whole Bedard thing, it just has me scratching my head. And the box prices are they're too much for me right now. I won't be buying any personals at 330 for sure.
In Canada, Troy, at Klaus and Char, it's a little bit better of a deal compared to the US. So cases are sold out there, I guess. So they're having their
Yep.
supply issues, but you can get hobby boxes for about 340 Canadian, which converts to 251 US dollars. So big difference there. There is a limit of 2 per customer if you're trying to get hobby boxes.
Mhm.
And I think it's worth mentioning too. We just use kind of the big online retailers as a point of context,
Yeah.
I guess. So whether you're in the US or Canada or somewhere else in the world, what we are seeing is a ton of price variability at
Yes.
local card shops right now.
Yep.
So if you do kind of have the stomach or desire to open Series 2, it's probably worth shopping around. I think you're not going to, you could see maybe 250, 275 US here on the low end, and you might pay 400 at some hobby shops too. So, sometimes it's worth doing that shopping, but that's kind of where we're at for
Yep.
wax prices right now. And then next thing I want to look at, Troy, is kind of key Bedard singles. Try to roll through these pretty quick, but so his Young Guns base sales as of again late Saturday night seem to be in the $600 to $700 range.
Mhm.
350 is the lowest that I found in Terapeak that somebody's paid in the last 3 days, and then 1176 is the highest. So
Yep.
prices are pretty wild at the beginning of every
Yeah.
release, and in this case, with the huge Bedard hype, that you got to be really kind of careful of what you're going in at.
Yeah. Yep.
Here's one that just blew my mind, and I kind of used our post. So there's been
Yeah.
one sale of his Young Guns Clear Cut Raw for 3,698 US dollars. Troy, it's the most ever paid for a raw Young Guns Clear Cut for any player.
I would have it no other way with everything I'm seeing with Bedard.
Isn't that wild? That there's
That's
not been a
actually wild.
single. And I like Bedard a lot. We'll talk about this too. And you watch him play, and it's easy to
Yeah.
see why people are so high on him. But he's played
Yep.
50 games and has 17 goals. And again, it's the most
Yeah.
paid ever for a raw Young Guns clear cut. Just wild.
Yeah. Time will
Haven't
tell.
seen.
Time will tell if this was a great deal
Yeah,
or we're the idiots. Or I'm the idiot, maybe.
maybe his deluxe 250. None have sold, but there's a few at auction. Kind of the same with his exclusives. Ones at Slab Sharks, which we already covered.
Yep.
Alper Silver Troy. Seems like sales are trending to sort of the $1,500 range right now, which puts it if it's like 600 to 700 for a raw Young Gun, it's like 2.5 times base, which seems
Mhm.
kind of where it should be.
Yeah.
Highest paid so far is 2,375. Lowest paid I found in Terapeak 1,400. So again, another great example of how pricing is all over the place the first couple days of a release. If you look at there's 6 confirmed sales in Terapeak of this card, there's basically $1,000 range, right, between, like, highest and lowest sale. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty significant. If you paid $1,000 more than someone else did yesterday
Yeah.
or the day before, that's gonna hurt a little bit. It's like, "Oh, man,
Well,
I just cost
even
myself
like
a lot
the
of money."
base Young Guns, you said there's 350 to what 700 or 1,000 maybe was
Almost
the highest.
1,200.
I can't remember what it was, but 1,200. So there's a huge range. So yeah, you're right. It's kind of nuts.
The Outburst Red, there's a couple on eBay, one of them was Slab Sharks as well. Again, that's gonna be wild to see where those end up. Uh, I did see that the exclusives jersey number has been pulled, and so, we'll see if that ends up selling.
Yep.
No
Yep.
sightings yet of the gold Outburst 101, so I'm guessing that's still in play. And getting back to the wax conversation a little bit, Troy, you gotta think those box prices they gotta come down once that's pulled, right?
Yeah. I would believe so. And there's a mailbag question about this too, but yes, I would believe once the Outburst is it Outburst Gold? Is that the official name of it? Once
Yeah, Outburst gold.
that Yeah, once that gets hit, I'm assuming prices will come down on boxes and cases.
So that's our kind of Bedard singles wrap up. There
Oh,
are
good.
other rookies too, believe it or not,
Yes.
in series two. So I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of roll through those, and it's very informative for me. So we'll start with kind of the other kind of key name, Leo Carlson. So his base Young Guns Raw is averaging about $35 US right now.
Yep.
100 US is the top that price that I've seen paid, and 20 is the lowest. Not selling for a lot, Troy. Again, we're at 300 plus dollars a box US. And when your secondary big guy is, I kind of always think back to like and maybe it's still COVID era stuff at the time, but when 2021 Series 2 came out and you had Byfield and Sider and Raymond, and I think maybe McTavish was in that as well too. I mean, we were seeing
Mhm.
60, 80, $100 young guns all over the place. And Leo Carlson hasn't had a much better start to the year. He's, I think, hurt again a little bit, has had problems staying on the ice, but I don't know, man. 35 bucks just seems, um, maybe it's the right price, but in context, it seems low. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems low, but it may be the right price for his performance so far. I know he had a little bit of hype, and I just had to look up his stats again. 9 goals in 40 games, 23 points. So maybe that's where it should be. But if I'm a Carlson believer, man, I'm grabbing those.
Hmm. Next kind of guy is Matthew Bourtois. Right now, his Young Guns Raw is selling for about 20 US. Highest sale I've seen is 40. He does have Young Guns Canvas in Series 2 as well. And this is a topic for another show, but as much as like kind of price research that we do, one thing I've noticed,
Yeah.
Troy, is when you have a flagship release where the Young Guns Canvas and the Young Guns Base are in the same product, at first, I feel like always the Young Guns canvas sells more for the Young Guns base, but as we know, when these all play out and you get into like
Yep.
graded and like talk to PSA 10s, the canvas ultimately is typically worth less than the base. And so I think it's a good reminder
Yeah.
is don't pay more. There's gonna be lots of Young Gun canvases for every one of these players. Don't pay more than the base. You want to look at a guy like McDavid or Matthews or Jack Hughes or whoever the player that and look at like the ratio and value and try to say, okay, if the Young Guns is selling for the base is selling for $20, I should probably pay like 12, like 13 or 14 for his canvas. Oh my God, they're selling for 30 now. I'm probably gonna wait.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Connor Zary is the next guy. His base Young Guns is selling in the $15 US range right now. Most paid I've seen is $32, Troy. Zach Benson is at 14 US. 74 is the highest that I've seen for Benson. Then we have Ty Cartier. Cartier, his base Young Guns around 10 US. 15 is the highest I've seen. And then the last guy is Pavel Minchukov, about $10 for his Young Guns base right now. So again, other than Bedard, not really any other super big chases. And Yeah, again, on Carlson, you know, not a huge secondary market chase at this point.
Yep.
So
Yep.
hopefully going back, Bedard and Box and where wax prices and other rookies, that gives us a good lay of the land so we can kind of transition
Yep.
into what I think are winners, losers, and maybe some lessons learned. So I'm gonna go through my winners list first, and you're gonna agree, disagree, or add any that you think I forgot. So I got to put like distributors, hobby shops, and retailers at the top of the list, right? And you know, shops have been full, products been flying off the shelves. They keep raising prices. It doesn't seem to affect sales at
Yep.
all. And so I would assume that many shops have raked in a lot of, maybe this is like their Black Friday moment, right? Where they go in
Yeah.
the black for the year. But it's hard to say that these distributors, hobby shops, and retailers are not winners. I assume you agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. They, especially the ones that are price. I call it price gouging, but again, free market. If you're raising the price and you're selling it for a lot and people are buying it and it's flying off the shelf, well, there you go.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're a free market person, and you can blame them, which I understand. But you can also blame us. It's like stop buying it then,
Yeah.
and guess what? The price will come down. So okay, my next winners are people that pre-ordered early. So I went back
Yes.
last night, Troy, and looked,
Yes.
and going back to September. Remember, we were shaking our heads and at $200
Yep.
pre-sales and saying
We
this
were
is
hemming and
ridiculous.
hawing.
Yeah. Boy, were we dumb, right? Because if you would have locked in there or even lower, I know people locked in lower, you've done pretty well at
Yep.
this point. I
Yep.
think you got to put breakers on the win list. A lot of, in the
Yep.
charged up situation we're in, there's a lot of, I think, negative sentiment to breakers. I can understand why there too. I saw breakers release day going through 10 plus cases. So I'm assuming that
Yep.
they're doing pretty well. I think you have to add to the winners list, Troy, the 12% of people that bought a hobby box and hit a Bedard Young Guns, right? Life probably feels pretty good
Yeah.
right now if you
Yep.
are in the black on your investment there. And then I have two more in the winners list. I think, there's a lot of big picture opinions right now, a lot of negative opinions, a lot of very good points people are making. But I think overall,
Mhm.
there's been a lot of exposure for the hockey hobby through this. You throw in the $1 million bounty through David Adams, and my hope is that excitement and splash, are going to bring some new hockey fans into hockey card collecting. I want to get your thoughts here. So, do you agree that again, it's not a perfect situation. There are negatives, of course, but do you think when you add it all up that it's all the kind of hoopla has been an exposure gained is a positive for the hobby?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I believe it's a positive, net positive for the hobby. However, you're gonna have the other side that say, "Oh, these people that don't know anything about hockey are coming in, driving up prices," which I get. But I do think that David Adams added that thing to the bounty. Did they replace the Zegras or whatever it was, the one they had on there that was like we
That
were
that
just
was that was
shaking our head?
fanatics. That was fanatics.
Or Fanatics, sorry, that was
Yeah, I
Fanatics.
haven't looked at
Yeah,
that. That's a good point.
um, but again, yes, the exposure standpoint, we've heard this. Like there's a lot of new people getting into hockey just because of Bedard. Is that good?
Mhm.
Is that bad? Well, it's good in a way, but also some people don't like it.
Yeah.
Hockey again is very collector driven, more collector driven than the other sports. We think.
The last person I'm going to put on the winners list is actually Upper Deck. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
criticism that I think is fair if you want to talk about
Yep.
kind of like should they control secondary market prices better for or not secondary the retail pricing better for their products, and
Yep.
I think that I would share in a lot of that. And but here's what why and where I'm putting them on the winners list. That aside, Troy, and without any major snafus like population count, multiple ones or something like that coming out again, I think they did a
Yeah.
really nice job with the set. This is a
Yeah.
really important set. I think that by and large, people really like the Bedard Young Guns card. And we'll see what gem rates end up at. But as far for a flagship product, we've got to open a box or two and see the cards. We've gone through them pretty closely with Billy, and um, I think they did a nice job as far as actually when you look at making the product.
I would say, from our standpoint too, that when we ourselves are winners because we pulled the absolute greatest card ever out of the set. I can't remember who it was, the guy that's falling over with his skate blade up, and it's the Outburst Silver, so it just looks kind of funny if you look at it. That might be my favorite card ever. But yeah, it's. I think they did the picture quality is, if we're looking at going back to like the basics, is fantastic. I think the cards look really nice. A lot of great pictures. Even though we think there's a lot of more of players on the ice or falling down. And again, like I said, I think people have generally been overall pretty happy with the Bedard Young Guns and how it looks and the picture selection and all that stuff. So yeah, I agree. Besides the pricing stuff, which they're always going to get hammered for, the set itself I think is really nice.
Yeah, the card you're talking about is the Kyle Palmieri Outburst Silver.
There it
It's a
is,
base
Kyle
card.
Palmieri. That's I do.
The whale tail
Great.
card, as
I love it.
somebody called it.
The whale
Wait,
tail.
and again, this kind of gets into my kind of loser column, but I think it's worth bringing up now. And I think that's what makes the price so tough for me is I would love to open up this product at a reasonable price. I think I would have a
Yep.
lot of fun
Yes.
doing it. And so, yeah.
So are
Okay.
you
So
in the
that's the,
camp that you hope the 101? Are you gonna hope the 101 gets pulled so prices come down?
yeah, by me. So, but yeah, that would be a situation. All right, let's talk about losers. So at the top of the list, Troy, I got to put the 88% or so that don't hit a Bedard Young Guns. It's a pretty tough sledding
Yep.
getting good values. We've talked about this already out of your hobby boxes. Again, odds are super, super low to break even on a box if you do not hit one. So here's a point of context that kind of hit this home for me. Second biggest chase, people are really excited about Leo Carlson. Troy, if you hit a Carlson Young Guns Deluxe out of 250, that doesn't cover your box cost right now.
Yep.
I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, it's like you're going. It's crazy. It's like a one card box.
Basically. And so, and this kind of gets back into the cost thing, but this is where I do feel for people, the
Yep.
next on kind of the losers list are sort of like, I'll call it like the blue collar portion of the hobby that doesn't have hundreds of dollars of disposable income to buy hobby boxes of Series 2, which is probably most of America, right? And most of the world for that matter. And
Yep.
for much of the hobby I mean, this has been building up for 2 years. There's been so much excitement. It kind of feels like we use the word like celebration when it came out, and it kind of must feel like a punch in the gut, right?
Yep.
Have all this build up and be thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get a couple hobby boxes at $120 a piece," and then to be totally priced out right at the end, essentially. I mean, we did see it coming for a couple of months, but
Yep.
and the way I kind of look at it is like, and we're kind of in this boat a little bit too. We don't buy the cup and rip a bunch of boxes because we're not at the level where we want to spend $1,000 a box, right? And the flagship
Yep.
products are kind of like the everyman's hockey collector product. And now when you get to the
Yep.
point where they're $300-$400 US a box, like us, we're just out at that point, and it sucks. I mean, we've been waiting for 2 years to open this product, and you can't participate because you don't have deep enough pockets, and especially contextually like people are used to. Because remember, Troy, this is the single largest price increase ever for flagship. If we're
Yep.
talking 20
Yep.
to 25%, I don't think anyone's, which is a lot still, but I think people get it, right? We're at like 170 to 200% at this point.
Yep.
And yeah, it's it kind of blows. I got to be honest, but I know. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on
And,
that?
and yeah, and I've kind of seen this argument, and I agree with it. It's kind of something I was thinking about too. I know it's flagship. It's flagship, and this is the one that you're hoping is kind of affordable for most people because it's the flagship release. Now, don't get me wrong, we've seen other sports get priced insanely huge, but I was just I got sad when the price got up to that 300, even like 200, 250, 300, 330 now, whatever it is, because it prices out a lot of people that I think we need in the hobby. And I think two kids, like I'm a kid, obviously that's a lot of money for a hobby box, and that's where I just kind of get sad over the whole thing. But it is what it is. Market forces are going to work. We'll see what happens, but I wish it wasn't so much.
Well, even our fallback of OPG is gone, right? At
Yeah,
least
yeah,
you could have had the thought, it's like, well, if Series 2 is going to be a lot, maybe I'll just get, because there are cool Bedard cards in OPG, but last I saw was like
hmm
$170 a box now, which is nutty
yeah. It's
for
going up crazy
OPG.
too.
And I'm out on that level too. It's like,
Yep.
yeah. So, well, the next is I'm going to put Upper Deck Troy on both the winners and losers list. And
Yeah.
I do that because, so if you believe that what they've kind of put out there, and I have no reason not to, so I'm going to believe it, that basically their cost, like what they're selling Series 2 for, is not much more than they traditionally do. But the boxes are going up huge. So somebody's making all the money, whether you think it's distributors or retailers or breakers or whatever it is. It
Yeah.
certainly doesn't seem like it's Upper Deck. Now, maybe a little caveat to that is we'll see when EPAC comes out where they do kind of do
Yeah.
direct to consumer there and maybe they rake in profits there. But for the physical stuff, the physical hobby boxes, they're not making the money. And well, why do you care? Maybe you don't, but here's where I think that it is interesting, and it's a point I made before. There is a lot of negativity around prices and people's sentiment to that, whether they call it gouging or unfair or greed. You hear words which are never great to hear about your
Yeah.
brand, and they're taking all the hits because it's Upper Deck on the box. It doesn't. I would be
Yep.
willing to. What percentage of the hobby can name a distributor? Right? It's just so that they're flying.
True.
They're flying high through this. They're getting all the money and Upper Deck has taken the bullets to their brand. And again, I go back to I don't know the ins and outs. I would love to have a conversation with, not Billy because he's not in sales there. Somebody who's in sales to really understand kind of their approach to this. But it just seems like, that there would be a scenario for Series 2 where they could put a cap on the box price and make more money than they are right now. And the cap on the
Yeah.
box price being maybe $225, something like that, which would be much more palatable to $200 to the hobby.
You take the
So,
fanatics. Take the fanatics route, or what we
mhm.
think fanatics is going to start doing. Yeah.
All right, last one I gotta put on is, we'll see how this plays out, but it's just my opinion. I'm gonna put on the losers list people that paid a huge amount of money for the Bedard NHL Draft SP, especially the PSA 10. I just feel like now that
Yeah.
Series 2 is out, there's a lot more options, or even OPG, right? And
Yeah.
maybe some cooler cards, some might say, or say, yeah, you might really love this card, so that's very opinionated, I know. But as we kind of predicted, Troy, the PSA 10 pop count is rising, right? But I said
Yep.
a month or two ago, I'm very confident it'll get above 50. Well, and it was at 18 at the time when we really did our deep dive on this card. It's at 34 now, so it is trending to that 50. We'll see if it gets there or not. On January 12th, somebody paid $12,000 for this card. Since then, it's
Yep.
lost 58% of its value, now selling around 5,000 US. I'm gonna, we don't make a lot of like value guesses, but and again, who am I? I don't know. But I kind of feel
Yeah.
like if that pop 10 or PSA 10 pop count gets to 50 or greater, and with all the now you're gonna have SB Authentic come out and Future Watch Autos, at the end of the day, this could be a $2,500, $2,000, $1,500 card. I don't know, but man, I feel for people that paid $10,000, $12,000 for this card a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, but I mean that's kind of the prospecting game, right? You take big risks and big swings. Can you think of any other losers than that I mentioned?
Yeah. I was thinking. I know we talk about the blue collar portion of the hobby, but it's just I think I think a lot of the hockey card hobby people lose out on this because you can't rip a box of Series 2 for fun because it's kind of out. It's priced too high, and maybe that ties into the blue collar portion. But I do think that the aspect of ripping for fun is kind of removed right now with Series 2. So
And
I
and
would put
maybe
that
I
portion in there.
yeah, I agree with that, and maybe this falls into a little bit our next category of lessons learned, but
Mm,
I think to some degree social media plays a factor in this, right? Is that you
yeah.
go on Instagram and people made this comment, everybody's pulling Bedards. That's what it seems like, right? Because naturally, if you buy a blaster box for $14 and you hit a $600, $700 card, you're gonna post it to Instagram and be like,
Hmm.
holy crap, I just bought a blaster and I hit a Connor Bedard. Or I opened a
And
hobby
then we
box,
post it
got
also as a record sale.
yeah, we post record sales, right? And so all that gets reinforced.
Yeah.
But remember, 88% of people that are buying this product are not having that experience. What are they not doing? You don't
Yep.
see Instagram or Twitter posts or TikTok videos about how, oh, I spent $300 on a hobby box and didn't get anything good. Right. And we kind of try to do
Yeah.
that through our pack opening to kind of show the ebbs and
Yeah.
flows and swings of that. But and this is true in many areas of life with social media, it creates kind of a false perception that maybe the odds of hitting a Bedard are better than they
Hmm.
actually are. So you got to kind of throw in that too. But that kind of brings us to lessons learned. And so the first thing that I put, Troy, is don't ever underestimate the power of hype in the hobby.
No.
Again, I go back to he's been very impressive, but he's played 50 games and he has 17 career goals, and we're seeing cards of his that are selling for record sales higher than Austin Matthews and Jack Hughes and other legendary players. And the one thing that's been completely off the charts is the level of hype for this kid. And holy cow, does that drive the hobby? Again,
Yep.
highest Young Guns clear cut raw sale ever is that example that we
Yep.
mentioned. And then you look at players like Kucherov that have no hype, and no matter how well they play, it doesn't matter, right? The next thing I had, Troy, is because prospecting is very speculative and is somewhat irrational. It's very, very hard to make predictions. And
Yep.
I've been thinking about this. Even if I was kind of had the appetite to be more in the Bedard chase than I do, I don't know how you decide what to pay for something right now
Hmm.
because there's like there's no like it's not tied to anything other than the excitement and hype and potential that this kid has at this point. So I think it's really really tough to be a buyer right now. Do you agree with that?
Yep. Agree 100%. Especially, I mean, I've seen firsthand. I'm frustrated. I'm baffled. I'm amazed. And right now, I'm kind of out on the whole Bedard thing.
Hmm. Well, I think that's a good segue into maybe a personal lesson that I've learned, and I've seen a lot of people have some pretty negative comments towards the hobby about this, and I can get swept up in that in times too. But the thing I keep trying to center myself around, Troy, is really perspective in that all the attention is on Connor Bedard right now, but he's a tiny part of this hobby still. And you can enjoy collecting, you can enjoy being a hockey card collector. You can build a valuable card collection, an impressive card collection that peers in the hobby would admire and not have a single Connor Bedard card in the process of doing that. And so that's kind of like they zig you zag sort of perspective. And there's a lot
Yep.
of cool stuff to buy. Like, I've spent the last couple days going back to like I really love the OPC lenticular 3D cards, and I've gotten some really good deals on the Logan Cooley, which I got sniped on a Luke Hughes, and I'm really really happy kind of chasing those cards. And you know just because there's the whole Bedard FOMO thing that is real, and I think it's happening to a lot of people right now. And again, it gets completely reinforced in social media. It's you go on Instagram, it's everything's Bedard and kind of us too, because that's what most people are interested in. But try to keep perspective. You can again have an awesome experience in the hobby and never have a single Connor Bedard card. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I agree 100%. Agree 100%. And that's something I've been thinking about when I get home. Because honestly, a lot of stuff was going on when I was down here, and I'm kind of catching up. But I just kind of want to go out and see what else is out there, and what aren't people looking at, and maybe stuff I can find some pretty good deals on.
last one I have for lessons learned is not a new lesson, but I think has been completely reinforced through this experience. And it's kind of, we talked about this a little bit, but early buyers of what I'm gonna say are common cards in the first few days of a set release typically get killed on their investment value into that card. So again, the keyword here is common cards, and I mean like cards that there will be likely like more than 1,000 printed in the marketplace. Where generally, anytime you want the card, any day of the week, you can go find one for sale. And if you want a good example of this, I'll point to the Bedard, Leo Carlson, Young Guns checklist base, right? Which typically don't have a lot of value. Three people on release day paid $100 for that card. It's selling 2 days later for 25,
Yeah.
right? And again, that's a card you can wait on. That's a card
Yeah.
that there's going to be tens of thousands of them in the marketplace, and traditionally they're not very chased after. Um, if you're going to take a gamble early on, and I say it is a gamble too, it's the cards that are very low numbered, like that Outburst Red at out of 25 or the High Gloss out of 10. You're going to pay a ton. And boy, there's a lot that has to happen for Connor Bedard to be an all-time great player someday. And there's a huge amount of risk that if you spend 25 grand or 30 grand, like we were talking about on that Outburst Red, that and he doesn't pan
Yep.
out, that's going to hurt. But then if he does become the next Connor McDavid, that could be $100,000 card too. But to me, if you're going to, don't spend $1,200 on a base Young Guns, right? Because what's motivated is that it's that, oh my, it's like people think it's the only one that ever existed because it's the first on
Mhm.
eBay, or I don't know what compels people to do it. They're like, oh, this is going to be a $10,000 card 2 months from now. It's a base Young Guns. There's like hundreds of thousands of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully listeners of our show kind of have, that we've kind of learned that together, because there's a time I probably would have spent $1,000 in one too. All right, I have one more kind of general thought and observation, Troy, and kind of put a pin on this conversation. For almost 2 years now, we've tracked every month most cards sold by each player for that month.
Yep.
Nobody's ever come close to Wayne Gretzky in a given month. He's the king
Yep.
of the hockey hobby. In the first 9 days of March, per card ladder, 3,143 Connor Bedard cards have sold on the secondary markets, right? 3,143.
Yep.
2,365 Wayne Gretzky cards have sold. I've never seen, even in a
Wow.
partial month, somebody more than Wayne Gretzky. 1,433 McDavid cards, 815 Ovechkin cards, 1,302 Crosby, and 825 Matthews. This is
Wow.
probably only me because I look at this every month. It would be mind blowing if at the end of this month, I wouldn't be shocked, but it would, that for the first time since we started tracking this, if a player's card sold more than Wayne Gretzky, and as of right
Yeah.
now, that looks like it could happen.
Yep. Looks like it's gonna happen, which would be the first time since we've done the show. But holy cow, that is pretty nuts. I didn't even realize that many cards were selling. Holy
It's
cow.
crazy. All right, we're gonna go into new product releases, and we got a little bit of a curveball. I guess best laid plans, Troy. When
Yeah.
Series 2 Hobby came out on Wednesday, the plan at first was for retail to come out a week later, so this upcoming Wednesday. But it looks like the hobby just couldn't contain itself, and
I
retail
couldn't
came
wait.
out this week. It's been leaking, it came out like retail products at hobby shops most consistently on release day, and it's kind of been trickling in based on how they stock their shelves at the big box retailers at this point. I haven't seen any here, but a lot of
Yep.
people are posting Walmart finds or a grocery store, that kind of thing. And so, what we want to do in case you're jonesing for some Bedards and you don't have the big dough or don't want to spend, even if you do have $300 on a hobby
Yep.
box, we thought it would be good to take a look at, and we're going to focus on the retail exclusive cards. So these are the cards that are not in hobby,
Yep.
and kind of go through some of the odds and where to get them, because some cards are exclusive by Walmart or Target, that sort of thing. So the first one we're gonna look at, Troy, is the oversized Young Guns or Young Guns Jumbo. So Upper Deck calls it oversized, but I think the hobby vernacular is Young Guns Jumbos. So these
Yep.
come in specific blaster boxes. They're called oversized Young Guns blasters. There's 15 rookies on the checklist. So if you get one, I mean, not terrible odds, I guess, to pull a Bedard, one of 15. Other key rookies of the 15 would be like Leo Carlson, Ty Cartier, Matthew Poitras, and Pavel Mintyukov. And then Troy, looking at the Bedard, last few sales have been around the 200 US range. Again, talk about early people impulse buying. 649 somebody paid for verifying a Terra Peak.
Wow. Wow.
Next one is the 94-95. It's a retro card. It's a rookie die cut. There's two versions of this. There's a gold foil. This is a Walmart exclusive. So the gold foil is in 1 and 3.3 Walmart mega box pack odds. Base Bedards are selling for about 130 raw right now. Those are the gold foil ones. Somebody paid 500 though, Troy, on release day, March 6th. This could be like a $30-$40 card in a few months. So, I mean, if you like it, I
Yep.
would probably it is kind of a cool looking card. Maybe wait it out
Yeah.
because again, there's gonna be a lot of them. It's a Walmart exclusive. The red foil parallel is a little more rare. It's 1 in 30 mega boxes through Walmart. Last sale on a Bedard red raw was 225 US. There's 10 players on the checklist. All are rookies, and they include, of course, Bedard, Brock Faber, Matthew Coronado, Logan Cooley, Devin Levi, and Adam Fantilli. I don't know, do you like the looks of these?
I don't know. No, I'll say that.
Are you not a big die
Why
cut
would you
guy?
ask? No, I don't mind die cuts. These just I don't know. These don't do it for me. Like when you asked me the question, and it took me 2 seconds to think if I liked it. Then I know I don't. Or it's just I'm either indifferent or it's not my thing.
Then now we'll go to the Target exclusive, and this is another kind of one that we've seen the last couple years. It's the 2023-24 rookie commemorative class. So again, these come in the Target
Yep.
megas. There's a base which is 1 in 3.6 mega pack odds. There's a red parallel 1 in 18 megas. A 15, a little bit bigger checklist, 15 players, again, all rookies. So you got Bedard, Logan Cooley, Matthew Coronado, Devin Levi, Adam Fantilli. I don't think the Target megas are out yet. I haven't seen any sales of these. There's just like
I
a
haven't seen
couple
that. Yeah, I haven't seen them
that
either.
have floated on eBay. The red one parallel is a nice looking card, I think, if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks nice.
There's a bunch of Dazzler parallels that are exclusive to retail.
Dazzlers all day, baby.
Oh my
Dazzlers
God.
all day for retail.
It's the same checklist as Dazzlers in the hobby. It's just the parallels that are unique. So there's an orange
Yep.
parallel, which is in 1 in 3 tin pack on, so in tins. Okay, we got to zoom in on the mouth again.
Okay.
This could be. You think Caulfield's is bad?
Yeah.
Check that out. Go look up his
uh,
Dazzlers if you're not
someone.
watching it. So I was trying to think like
What
what
was
is
that?
going on here.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like Trey the photos taken as he was getting like a surprise colonoscopy or something like that, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it is. I don't know what. Why are we so fascinated with mouth pictures? It's crazy, but
I don't know. So the orange Dazzler is selling for about 100 US raw right now. There's a green
okay.
parallel that's 1 in 4 blasters and then 1 in 3 pack odds for the oversized blaster. These are going again for about 100 US right now, too. A little more exclusive Dazzler's red parallel, 1 in 32 10 pack odds. The Bedard's selling for 220 US right now. When I say these are going for, I'm talking about Connor Bedard. 220 US right now for the red.
Yeah.
And then the black parallel, which is 1 in 96 in tins pack odds. One sold for only one is sold for 750 US.
Wow.
I'm sure this one comes as a shock to you, Troy, but 750 US is the most ever paid for a Dazzler die card.
That seems about right. If you'd have told me that amount, I'd be like, "Yep, that seems like the most ever paid for a Dazzler."
So we've got orange, green, red, and black. And remember, in hobby, a blue Dazzlers, which are 1 in 12 pack odds, pink, which are 1 in 72 pack odds, and the printing plates 101. So that means that, Troy, there's 9 different Dazzler cards. Are we reached the point of too many at this point for Dazzlers?
Mm, I don't
Or
think
do you
as
like
long as I mean I'm fine with retail having their own. Like orange, green, red, and black. Are those only in retail?
these are all retail. All the cards we're going over are retail exclusives. The other thing that's
Okay.
kind of really unique
Yeah.
about the
So
black card too is that has 1 in 96 pack odds, and that's the toughest chase of any dazzler. So the pink in hobby is 1 in 72 pack odds.
mm, yeah. I don't mind that. Actually, I know it's a lot of dazzlers, but I like that they're keeping some just exclusive to retail, and I don't mind that there's a retail dazzler card that's harder to hit than anything in hobby. I actually throw a bone to retail at some point. I've always complained
Yeah.
about that. Like I wish they could figure out some way to make some retail stuff a little more exclusive. Even though I know that's probably kind of against the nature of a retail release. But
No, I agree with that 100%. All right. There's a red honor roll parallel in Target mega boxes that have 1 in 6 pack odds. We don't have a picture because the mega boxes I couldn't find any. There's no Bedard on the checklist.
yeah,
That's probably why I couldn't find a picture. You do have like Faber, Luke Hughes, Luke Evangelista, Dustin Wolf, Devin Levi would be the biggest names. So there's that. And then there's OPC Glossy is the last exclusive retail card. 25 players on the checklist. Now, this one is a mix of rookie and vets. There is Bedard, though, and other rookies like Fantilli,
yep,
Coronado, Logan Cooley. Base, there's a base and a goal parallel. Base are 1 in 2.7 pack odds. Goal parallel 1.8 or 1 to 8 pack odds. And looking at Bedard sales, actually both cards, the base and the gold, they're a little hard sometimes to tell the difference depending on the photo, are in
yeah.
about the 50 to 60 range right now. So there you go. I mean that's your retail exclusives for series 2. The one thing though that I will say overall, none of these cards are new. And I kind
No,
of, and to your point about throwing a bone to retail, I kind of wish Upper Deck would have given this whole Bedard mania, maybe come up with a couple new retail. Because whether you're talking about the die cuts, those have been around for a couple years, or the rookie class, all these dazzlers, glossies, honor rolls. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you agree with that? Do you wish maybe Upper Deck would have maybe spiced up retail a little bit with 1 or 2 new cards?
I'm always up for retail getting spiced up. I don't care what set it is. Just give retail a little bit more.
All right. We hit our Bedard quota, Troy. So we're going to move on to make
Yep.
a quick mention for PWCC, partner and sponsor of our show. Super grateful to them for their support. The March 2024 PWCC Premier Auction is live, ends Thursday, March 21st. So head to pwccmarketplace.com to place your bids. There's 3 big time hockey cards in this month's Premier Auction. There's a Wayne Gretzky and a couple of McDavid rookies. First, you have a 1979 OPG Wayne Gretzky rookie PSA 8.5. I don't feel like we see a lot of PSA 8.5 cards
Yeah.
around. That kind of stood out to me. The card at PSA 8.5 is a pop 47. There's 95 graded higher. There's 93 PSA 9s and, of course, 2 PSA 10s. And if you kind of zoom in and take the time to go to PWCC and look at it, the biggest flaw is that is a registration issue. The yellow plate is offset low to, I
Yeah.
would call it a somewhat significant degree. But, and there's some, you can see like the red in there. But if you're not bothered by registration and you look at like the centering and edges on this card, it's pretty nice. It has, to me, Troy, that sort of perfect um OPG rough cut to it, like the right
Yeah.
amount that I personally tend to like. Now it's dull blades, Troy, so don't put your tinfoil
Oh
hat
boy.
on and talk about like piano wires or anything like that. The hobby's already dealing with too much right now. We don't need that.
Right on.
So all in all, again, Jeremy Lee won't like it because he's registration is most important to him, but pretty nice Gretzky.
Yep.
So then we have a couple nice McDavid rookies. Start off, this is a card, Troy, that when I really looked at this 2015-16 Upper Deck Ice Connie McDavid Ice Premieres, and again, Premieres is always spelled with the cool way with the extra E at the end of it. But it
Yeah.
says Ice Premieres RPA out of 10, BGS 9.5 with the 10
Yep.
auto grade. Look at this patch.
Yep. Great patch.
Ridiculous. In a card that's like not like a mega patch or something like that, it's very hard to make out the oil drop a lot, but it's very obviously a part of the oil drop there. The autos may be a little light because it's signed on acetate, which these Ice Premier cards are, but I don't know. This will never sell for as much as like a cup RPA, but this is a card I really liked, right? What do you think?
Yep. Oh, I think it looks fantastic. The auto may be a little faint, but I think makes up for
Yeah.
the patch. And the auto's in a nice spot. It's not crazy. It's got its dedicated spot for it, right where it should be. But yeah, this card looks great.
Then the last one is a 2015-16 The Cup Gold RPA for Connor McDavid. It's out of 12. Again, very, very nice patch as well. Like 3-color patch, 4 breaks. Yeah. If you're looking for the one thing I've never loved about this card is how the signature has text underneath it. I wish
Yep.
that it
Yep.
would be on more of a blank space, but that's a little nitpicky
Yep.
there. So I don't know. The three that are in the premiere, do you have a favorite?
As much as I'm not a big ice guy, I'd probably take that Ice Premier, that
Mhm.
McDavid, the second one.
I think pre Jeremy Lee brainwashing on registration, which he totally has me converted, I would have picked the Gretzky, but yeah. So again, head to pwccmarketplace.com to check out all the cards, whether it be in the premiere or the weekly auction or the fixed price marketplace. And vacations are over. Jeremy Lee and I are back at it for our weekly Sunday hockey watch party covering the end of the PWCC weekly and all the cool hockey cards in it. It starts at 8:30 Central Time on Jeremy's YouTube channel, Sports Cards Live. So I hope to see you all there. All right, Troy, got a mailbag. It's another big one. So we're going to have to try to cruise through it.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody
Yeah, we
who
got it.
submitted your questions. Okay, first one, Instagram. It's Geppetto Cards. Your favorite non-hockey card in your PC, if there are any. So I have a 1956 Topps Jackie Robinson PSA 7 that I love. You got one?
I put my 61 Topps Mickey Mantle SGC3, but I felt like I didn't give this question enough attention. I just didn't have enough time. I have a ton of other stuff that I could probably list out here, but we'll save that for another
If you were at
day.
home, you would have showed us about 47 cards. So yeah, we'll look
Yeah.
forward to that down the road. Okay, from Discord, 2 cent hockey cards. He says 2005-6 Black Diamond Onyx Parallel, the only 101 rookie card for Ovi and Sid? Question mark. Have you seen any evidence these cards have ever been pulled? I looked at PSA and BGS pop reports and could only find evidence of one of them for Ryan Getzlaff being, I guess, the highest profile card. So I've never seen this card. I can't say if the Ovi or Crosby has been pulled. But you ask, are they the only 101s? I know there are NHL Shields at least, so I would assume that listen. There's like a trillion 101s for every rookie today. I'm sure Bedard will have
Yeah.
like a million of them, but I don't think it's the only one for Sid and Ovi. Well, I know because there are Shield cards.
Yeah.
All right, Discord Rally SC. It's been quite the thrill watching this product come out, talking about Series 2, all the discussion around pricing, where the
Yep.
fault lies, and then seeing it consumed like no other hockey product I can remember. The end result? Prices and wax are going up, not down. Do you think this validates the pre-sale pricing we saw at the large vendors like Dave and Adams? Well, Rally, I think if you're a free market thinker, again, we go back to the fact that people are buying a product at a specific price point, of course, validates that price. The emotional side of
Yep.
us must probably doesn't like these prices are so high. And yeah, I don't. I would love to be able to open up more, but I don't know. Troy, maybe it's just a supply and demand thing, and we're not used to this much demand in the
Yeah.
hobby. I go back to it. People stop
Yeah.
buying it, the price would come down. And that just doesn't appear to
Yep.
be happening.
Take the Troy jaded response and don't buy it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, if prices are going up and people are still buying it, it just incentivizes these guys to keep raising the price.
Discord 86 Collectibles. Again, thank you for joining our Triple Gold Club. I really appreciate that. Do you ever think grading companies? This was an interesting question that I love when we get
Yeah, it's a
these
really good
questions we've never been asked
question.
before. Do you Everything grading companies will implement a slab that can't be broken. If you open it, the card gets ruined. To control population counts, prevent opening up slabs or resubmitting them to another company in hopes for a higher grade, or even cleaning and altering a card and then resubbing it. You got an answer for this one, Troy?
Yeah, it's a great thought experiment, a great thought question. Honestly don't know. I, I always come back to, I'm not sure they're really incentivized to. I don't think a grader is incentivized to make sure a card would get ruined if you open their slab. At the end of the day, if you resubmit it, that's just another grading company getting money, and maybe it comes back to them eventually again. So I just don't see, I don't see the reasoning and the amount of money that a grading company would probably have to spend to implement something like this. Is, I'm assuming, a good chunk of change. So I just don't know if they're incentivized to do something around it.
I would agree with that. I would think that the cases would cost a lot more and it would raise grading prices. And it seems like what the market wants is cheaper grading. And then
Yeah.
I also don't know how people would feel about their your card not being able to ever be removed from the
Yeah.
slab
So if I
either.
buy it secondhand, right? I'm not the one that graded it. Why I should
Yeah.
get control of what I want to do. If I want to crack it, I should be able to crack it. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Okay, next one from Discord, Blade Visionary. As I watch the Bedard frenzy with the launch of his Young Guns and other numbered cards, I can't help to notice some of his pricing is completely unreal. So he's talking about the Red Outburst that's currently over 17,000. And he says, "Do you guys believe a massive bubble has formed around Bedard where expectations are completely unrealistic? So much it will blow a hole in the hobby market if he doesn't achieve superstar stats like soon, and which could cause a bubble to burst, may also have a major, negative reverberations in the hockey card market for many years."
I think it's all crazy, but yes, I think it is a bubble that will burst if he just becomes a 20-goal scorer every year. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I think he's a special talent, and I also think he's 18 years old, and I don't expect him to put up 50 this year, next year, maybe within a couple of years. But it's definitely interesting to see how crazy pricing has gotten, which is all hype driven and a little bit of skill or performance because he was playing pretty well before he got hurt. But I think there is that market or that bubble risk, and if he doesn't pan out to this superstar, then obviously the market's going to react.
I think that's a good comment. The one thing I would add is that I have confidence the hobby can survive a Bedard collapse. The numbers are
Yeah,
way higher than they've ever been. But if you think about prospecting by nature, most people get killed every year, right? Sets come out, we pay $100 left and right for Lucas Raymond Young Guns. Look what they're worth today. There's examples of
yeah,
this every single year, and the hobby survives that. Now, again, the numbers are much more elevated for Bedard, but again, I think the hobby is strong enough to, if he doesn't shake out.
yeah.
JB Hockey Cards from Instagram says, looking past all the Bedard Young Guns hype, would you invest in a Bedard Young Guns knowing he's only been in the league for 6 months, or play it safe and invest in getting a McDavid Young Guns? Seeing both cards are selling around the same price. I want to get one of the two, but I'm not sure which one would be a smarter financial decision. So I'll let you. The first thing I would say is that probably McDavid is safer, but I don't look at base Young Guns has very good investments because the pop count is too big of
Yep.
a variable on that. So buy whatever card that you would enjoy the most in your collection. And
Yeah. Agree.
uh, yeah. All right, Instagram EPAC hockey cards. Would prospecting be more fun, less fun, or the same amount of fun if card values of each rookie followed a linear path? For example, if a player achieves a point per game pace, their Young Guns goes up 20%. If they hit 50 goals or 100 points in a season, it increases 100%, etc. It's a really interesting question again, Troy. He's kind of laying out as sort of like a rational argument for value, foundation for
Yep.
value, but what we've talked about is that the hobby is completely irrational, and I don't mean that like in a kind of negative emotive way. It's just more like from like irrational in the sense of like looking at finances. Is that it's
Yeah.
hype and you can't quantify that. So yeah, if you're like a very rationally minded thinker about financing, you'd probably prefer something like this. Do you like his idea or his wish?
Well, it'd be interesting. It'd be a lot less stressful, I guess, but it's also less fun. I like how it is now, where everything's just kind of crazy, even though I might not like it personally from where I can't afford something. But again, it's chaos. It's kind of fun to watch. We're at
Yeah.
a kind of unprecedented time in the hobby, so yeah, I'm all for it. I like this crazy, irrational thing we're in.
All right, Instagram, Stephen Welton has 3 questions. I think he goes by 5 alarm cards like on IG. I'm really looking forward to the deep
Okay.
dive into some of the other rookies in the Series 2 sets. If we could fast forward to the future, would we really want to know the answers to speculation around Bedard or Series 2 will hold value? I find that volatility of it all is what draws me into collect and engage in the hobby. So while there are pros and cons for all of us, it's alive and well. So he kind of has your kind of comment you were just talking about, where he's saying like the
Yep.
whole volatility and speculation is what kind of creates the rush and makes the hobby interesting. And I would agree with that, Troy. I think the lottery fantasy is what drives so much of the hobby, whether it's like breaking or opening wax or getting in on that prospect on the ground floor. That's kind of the rush we all look for.
Yep. Agree.
His next question is: do you believe there's an intentional supply and demand limit going on? Are distributors going to try to take advantage of hobby shops, or is there a real partnership to help them recover as they took a beating over the last few years? Is it really the market demand? Is it really that the market demand is beyond what everyone can control? Just food for thought. What do you think on that?
Man, from everything we hear, and this is all secondhand, but from everything we hear, it sounds like distributors are just the worst, and they fleece shops for money. They send them product they don't want and charge them a bunch of money for it. I don't know. I don't. I. It's hard for me to be in the distributors' side on some of this stuff, but I would. We need to figure out how to have like a good, honest discussion with like a distributor or how this all works. I don't know how you do it, but because it's everything we hear secondhand, and that's a lot of shops, all those secondhand information. It's like these distributors can just charge you what they want. They won't even tell you what they're charging money to you, and they'll hit you with a cost. So it's crazy.
Well, what hobby shops would tell you too is that not only are they charging a lot for like the Series 2 hobby boxes, but they're throwing conditions in it. Like, well, if you want 10 cases of Series 2, you have to buy
Yes,
20 cases of a product nobody wants. And so, I
MVP.
agree with you there. One part of his question, though, that I do want to address is kind of the intentional sort of holding supply back to create, maybe artificial demand in return.
hmm
I think these guys are smart enough to, and they've been doing this long enough to know that the kid could get hurt. His play could, that if you can get $300 a box right now, you're selling every one you can.
Yeah.
But who knows? And then last question is: will the reveal the 101 card impact the demand for Series 2 hobby boxes or retail products? Well, not retail because it's not in there. There are no exclusives or other hits inside retail we can't seem to get in stock. Interested to know your thoughts there. Will these boxes and tins and blasters be uh, the grails we all should have held on to? Well, I think that retail down the road, if it really works out, like you see, you can get a lot of money for a 2015-16 Series 1 blaster box that could have the McDavid Young Guns, and so it can be kind of if you want to stash wax, a cheaper way to go about it. But I do assume hobby box prices will come down a bit once the Outburst Gold 101 is pulled. But then on the flip side of that, Troy, as you've mentioned, I mentioned already, predicting anything Bedard related at this point seems foolish. Like you're just setting yourself up to look
Yeah.
dumb. Inst-
Agree.
Instagram, shoot and score sports cards. Along the same lines of thoughts, so he kind of piggybacked on Stephen Walton's questions. He's like, I'm wondering at which point a player's hype bad for the hobby. Another really interesting question. Or maybe it isn't. Everyone's chasing Bedard has driven up prices and our ability to chase other players and cards, all very frustrating. Even more so because many don't collect or follow hockey. They're just after profits. To me, Troy, that hype can only be bad if you get too swept up in it. Again, it comes back to they zig, you zag. Bedard is bringing, of course, a lot of
Yep.
attention to the hobby, which I think again is inherently good. But I actually think there's deals outside of Bedard right now. And again, if you really want a Leo Carlson Young Guns, it's $35, and you got a 12% chance hitting one in a $300 hobby box, go buy one on eBay. It's a pretty cheap investment at that point. Okay, Instagram, JKPC716. What is the bottom for the Bedard Young Guns base card?
Zero. You can't give them away. No, I'm just kidding.
It's impossible to answer that. I wish I could, but he's played 50 games. He's very much in that prospecting hype stage, and nobody knows what the ceiling or bottom would be. The range, again, would I be shocked if he scores 50 goals last year and his Young Guns is double what it is today, raw? Probably no. And if he stinks 3 years from now, it could be a $5 card too. It all depends on how he plays, if he's healthy, if he's win, etc. So here's an interesting question that got me really thinking from Twitter. Sebastian Engelhardt, Troy, I want to get your opinion on this too. It seems like Mario Lemieux doesn't get enough or nearly enough hobby love as being one of the greatest players ever. Do you think Sidney Crosby hurts Lemieux's hobby value, being a current legend on the same team? Any other reasons? So I had to think at first, Troy, if he really doesn't get enough hobby love. Because other than the fact that his rookie is 85, kind of right getting in the junk wax era, that is like, should it be more than 40 grand or something like that? I don't know, but I think he's pretty much well revered as one of the greatest players ever. Don't you think so? Or I don't know.
I totally think so. I think he's totally revered. I think he's a hobby star. I think he gets hobby love. And I don't think it hurts. I think if they played at the same time, then maybe then you run into that. You got two absolute superstars on a team. I think their playing days were different enough that they did play for the same team, but a lot of teams have two superstars that play for them. So I don't think it really hurts that Crosby and Lemieux play for the same team.
Next question, Instagram, Taylor A. Wood. What are your thoughts on trying to collect all copies of a card? For example, the card is out of 25, so you would hunt down all 25 copies. What do you think, Troy?
Yeah. Well, I think the chase can be exciting, but to me, this is personal. This is such a personal question. It just doesn't excite me one bit to go after all 25 copies of the same card or even all 5 copies of the same card. I would rather chase one of those cards, and then if there's other numbered parallels, go after one copy of each of those. And so think of it, I know we call it the rainbow, trying to complete a rainbow. I'd much rather try to do a rainbow with one copy of each parallel than try to get all of the 25s. Now we've heard about people that have cornered the market kind of on cards doing that, and then they can drive the price up. But it's very hard to do, cost money depending on the player. But again, I don't want all 25. I just want the 25.
Well, you gotta be willing to be at it for a long time and have a almost zero probability of being successful, right? Because if it's out of 25, you'll never know if all 25 ever get pulled, right?
Yeah.
One could have been thrown away, even if it was pulled, they're sitting in a hobby box.
Yep.
All right, here's a good question, an interesting question, I guess. Maybe more, I don't really know where he's driving at. But Instagram DBS Sports Card says, explain how breakers and YouTubers aren't killing the hobby. I don't know if this puts us in the category, Troy, since our show's on YouTube. I guess we're YouTubers. Are we killing the hobby? I'd hate to be the case there because we love the hobby and we want to see it grow. Certainly not trying to kill it. So I guess we need more context maybe about the YouTubers, because I'm not sure maybe who you're talking about or what specifically YouTubers are doing that are hurting the hockey hobby. I can probably have more confidence addressing the breaking situation. And, this might be controversial, Troy, but I don't really see it either, to be honest. And I don't do a lot of breaks personally. And maybe their buying power.
It's been a while since I bought in.
Yeah. There's the theory that their buying power impacts supply and demand and maybe cause prices to raise. Maybe. We don't see data on that, though. So it's kind of conjecture. I mean, it does make sense, right? Part of that in theory. So it's tough to make an argument there based on facts. And the other thing I'd say about breaking is that it only exists because there's a huge demand for it. and collectors seek them out, right? It's not like you get arrested and go to jail and are forced to break. They find breakers, collectors choose a spot, they pay for it. And so I guess if you think that they're ruining the hobby, your argument would be that maybe that we're irresponsible as hobby collectors, that we can't control ourselves to make our own decisions or something like that. Because Troy, I think if breaking stopped being fun to people, or they no longer saw value in it, then it would probably go away, right? Just like any business and any
Yeah.
marketplace. Again, maybe it should be more regulated to be as not predatory if people think they're, that might be a good thing. But I just, breaking exists because people want to do it. And to say that they're the enemy, it's like, well, then is it really the breakers, or is it the people that keep buying the spots constantly? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a loaded question. It would be great to see an in-depth study on this, but yeah, I get what he's kind of getting at too, though, with breakers and pushing the price up because they're buying all the product to break. But again, they're selling. We've seen it with the Series 2, 10 plus cases on release day, and they're filling breaks. So, like you said, there's kind of two sides to that coin. I was trying to think about the YouTuber comment a little bit more, and it's maybe because like this maybe ties back to that Instagram post where we were talking about prices all the time, and they maybe see that as having a negative effect. But I look at it as just reporting facts and getting the discussion. Like we're not in the game of, and maybe other YouTubers are, where they you make the recommendations. We've all seen those guys that talk about buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. Yeah, we'll give some opinion here and there, but maybe that's what he's getting at. On YouTubers, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Instagram bin cards. Traded players question. He says, how does it affect Young Guns values when they end up on a team that has quote unquote like the wrong jersey? So like Jack Eichel being in a
Yeah,
Sabres jersey, or Kachuk in Calgary. To me, it has a negligible impact. It's more important how they play and what their hobby hype is. But do you agree or disagree with that?
yeah, and I agree with you. And going forward, the days of playing for the same team, your whole
Mhm.
career are very slim. Um,
Yeah. All right, next question. Real McCards. He has two questions. He says, when they zig, we zag, right? What are your guys targeting for personal pickups while the whole entire freaking hobby has been fully distracted by Bedardmas, Bed- Bed Ramadard? That's kind of funny. Or
yeah, bad
Bedarda.
Ramadard.
Yeah. Um,
Petard.
there's lots of stuff. I mean, I've been having a lot of fun, like I said, looking up. I like clear ultra set OPG. This is like low PGs, a lot of inserts that I like. So yeah, I've been focusing there. What do you think, Troy?
Yeah, I haven't. I think I mentioned earlier. That's like one of my goals this week is just to sit down and kind of
Mhm.
see what I want to do. See what I want to do. Not Bedard related because I'm staying away from that.
Then he said, I'm seeing Bedard based Young Guns going for around $700 US, Alfred Silvers for around 2000. Given the odds of hitting his base Young Guns are approximately 1 in 8 hobby boxes, it appears once again that buying singles is the value play. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think that the value will break the pattern of the post release dip you've discussed, given the cost of hobby boxes is so much higher as for release? Again, I feel like I'm so cautious to predict any Bedard, but I go back to the common cards. I think on the long haul, the common cards will normalize and they'll get cheaper unless he goes off. And so I would wait to, and you're gonna have an inevitable, careers are never straight lines. So you're gonna have inevitable dips. And um, I would be more surprised if it doesn't get to the $250, $400 range at some point. Now, 5 years, 6 years from now, it might be higher, but um, if I'm guessing today, I'm waiting a little bit on to buy those raw common cards. What do you think, Troy?
No, I'm still waiting. Like, if I wait and miss out because he just goes awesome, well, that's my loss.
From Facebook, Brett Mather, your estimate on how many Bedard base Young Guns were printed? Good question. I would guess 100 to
1
150,000.
million.
Troy's is a
Yeah, I'm
million.
guessing a lot. I'll go to the high end of yours, 150,000 plus.
Another Facebook question from Chris Beach. Do you think Bedard Mania is finally striking a nerve among some collectors? I've noticed that over the last week with the release of Series 2 that every hockey sports card social media page is log jammed with Bedard cards, not ours as of yet, that collectors have acquired and seems to be all everyone is focusing on. And then the price isn't all that friendly to us either. Also, because of this, do you think it's taken away from other great inserts or the superstars and rest of the Young Guns lineup in Series 2? I've hit one Bedard myself, but quite honestly, I'm a little sick and tired of the hype around it at this point. Love the show, guys. My favorite podcast. Well, thank you very much. Keep up the great work. Sounds like this would be a good friend of yours that you have a lot in common, Troy. Again, I'm going to go
Yeah.
back to my personal lesson learned on perspective. This will pass. It's a momentary time.
Yeah.
It feels like Bedard is all that matters, but it isn't. And the hype will die down. It does for everybody. There'll be a new rookie at some point that everybody's focused on. So, yeah, just kind of tune out the noise if it's bothering you and focus on the stuff you love. What do you think, Troy?
No, I'm all for it. I hate to be this guy, but I got to get going. So I'm gonna move us forward.
Okay. Yeah, you got a Twins game to get to. So Instagram, Ojibwe86.
Well,
What's
I gotta check out the hotel. I gotta get ready. It's time is not my friend right now.
what's more likely, Crosby not playing for Team Canada in 2026 Olympics or Bedard not playing on that team? I just don't feel there's any way Crosby doesn't play in that Olympics at this point, Troy. That's probably all he's got going for him, given his team. So I'm going to say Bedard not playing is more likely, but I fully expect both to be on the team.
Yeah.
Anything there you disagree with?
Yeah, you gotta have Crosby. You gotta have Crosby. He's like the captain. He'll be the leader of that team. You got it. Even if he he can barely skate, he's got to be on the team in some form. So yeah, I agree with your answer.
All right, Instagram 1313. This is for you, Troy. I'm gonna shut up. Another mailbag question for Wax
All for
God
me.
Troy. You're the Wax God. That's your new. You better change all your social accounts, Troy. Pretend you walked in the expo
Yeah.
and you see a humongous wall of sealed wax at great prices. Wow, that would be awesome. But you have enough money for only 3 of the following. Which are you picking? 2019 OPG Platinum, 2020 OPG Platinum, 2016 Upper Deck Series 1 Mega Box, 2020 SB Authentic Hobby Box, or 2013-14 Panini Crown Royal.
All right. First, I'm grabbing the Crown Royal. You got to grab the Crown Royal. It's such a fun release. Next would be, so I've debated. I got to get one of the 2020s because that has Kaprizov, and then so I will probably go. I'll go the 2019 OPG Plat because then I think I Hughes brother Hunt, right? Are Quinn and Jack both in that? I can't even remember.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably go the 2020 SP Authentic because I'm gonna pull the Kirill Kaprizov, an inscribed Future Watch auto, or the gold one, whatever, the black and gold one.
Yeah.
Plus he's got that sweet retro North Stars jersey, so I gotta chase that. I'm staying out of the Mega Box. I don't want the Mega Box.
That's 2019 has McCarr too, so I totally agree with you. All right, Instagram, Pat Bass 87. Series 1 Oprah Silver has one. This was shocking to me. Series 1 Oprah Silver has 1 in 30 pack odds. Series 2 Oprah Silver 1 in 60 pack odds. Does that mean they doubled the print run for regular Young Guns in Series 2? So I didn't realize that. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means? Well, they either printed more or they wanted to make it a tougher chase, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Might be a question for us to ask Upper Deck.
I do want to ask them that. Instagram, Howie306. Series 2 cases, hold or sell. So what I'm going to tell you, Howie, is first of all, it depends what you paid for it. But if you can get $4,000 to $5,000 right now, I'm probably selling and taking the win.
Yeah, this is where I listen to our show, right? I'm taking the win. Now, a lot of times you'll hear guys talk about, or guys and gals, you can make really good money in sealed wax, and maybe that's the play here. But I usually want to take the win. So if I had if I had a case of Series 2, which I don't, I would probably look at selling it.
All right, we're going to end on a really good question from Instagram and True Card Adventures. Which set would you consider collecting all of today? So I'm going to look at like insert sets. So there's a lot of insert sets I love, like maybe like some like jambalayas. There's like medallions I really love and Flair Ultra, my Glow P cheese. So I would probably look at those. Do you got any ones you'd mention quickly, Troy?
I would say, why am I blanking on this? I'm sorry. It's the cards I brought up. The ice. They were the cool. Ugh, I'm sorry. I'm totally blanking. I can't remember what they're called. But they were the ones I brought. They were on the PWCC's weeklies that I did. I bought some of them. I just can't remember the name of them. I'll remember next episode.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then 16 bits. I think
Oh
they're
yeah.
Easter eggs. They're whatever those one Easter eggs are, and I
Yeah.
cannot for the life of me think of the name. Which is just
Oh, Provisions.
we're on hours. We're coming up on yes, that's it. What was it called?
Provisions from Credentials.
Provisions. Yes, Provisions. I've started collecting those. I got like 2 now, so
Yeah.
I keep looking for those. 16 bits I've always liked, so I'll say those 2 for now. And again, this is part of my kind of take a look, see what I want to do besides Bedards, and make a game plan. The expo's coming up.
We have no personal pickups because, like everyone else, we've put all our money into Series 2 at this point, and we have pack opening videos. We opened up a box of Billy, so you can see all of that coming up soon. And that's our show. Holy cow, it's a long one. Troy's got to roll, got to finish his day at spring training. But if you, well, thank you for listening and watching. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show, you want to support us, want to chat with us every day on our Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our $1.99 support level tier on Patreon. There's a link in the show description on both our podcast apps and YouTube. In our Instagram profile, TikTok profile, you go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com. There's a Patreon link at the top of the page, or just go to Patreon directly, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. We're on social media. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures LLC. We'll check you all out on Thursday.